The kiss that shattered everything. Some mistakes you can take back. This wasn't one of them. When Daniel Brooks, exhausted single father, barely surviving his corporate nightmare, found himself locked in a screaming match with the Ice Queen herself, Evelyn Cross, he never expected her next move. One moment, fury crackled between them like lightning. The next, her lips were on his, silencing every word, every breath, every rational thought. The entire office saw it through those damn glass walls. But what they didn't see, the way both their worlds cracked wide open in that single, impossible second. If you want to know how one angry kiss can demolition everything you thought you knew about love, work, and second chances, stay with me until the end. Like this video, comment what city you're watching from, and let's see how far this story travels. The fluorescent lights in Cross Media's executive wing had a particular quality that Daniel Brooks had come to despise. They were merciless. They revealed every coffee stain on his hastily ironed shirt, every shadow under his eyes from another sleepless night, every crack in the professional facade he fought so hard to maintain. Today, those lights bore witness to what would become either the biggest disaster of his career or its most unexpected turning point. You're telling me that 3 months of work is unacceptable? Daniel's voice cut through the sterile air of Evelyn Cross's corner office, his hands gripping the back of the leather chair so tightly his knuckles had gone white. 3 months of 60-hour weeks, of missing bedtime stories, of cold dinners eaten at midnight? I'm telling you, Evelyn interrupted, her voice like frost over steel. That mediocre effort stretched over 3 months is still mediocre, Mr. Brooks. Time invested does not equal value delivered. She stood behind her glass desk. Because of course she had a glass desk, transparent and cold, just like everything else in this sterile kingdom she'd built, wearing a charcoal suit that probably cost more than Daniel's monthly rent. Her dark hair was pulled back in a severe bun that seemed designed to announce she had no time for human weakness. At 36, Evelyn Cross had built Cross Media from a struggling startup into a digital marketing powerhouse, and she'd done it with a reputation for brilliance matched only by her reputation for crushing anyone who couldn't keep pace. Daniel had lasted 6 months. Apparently, that was 5 months longer than most people expected. Value delivered? The words came out sharper than he intended, but he was too exhausted to care anymore. I delivered exactly what you asked for. A complete digital strategy overhaul, analytics integration, a content calendar that plays it safe, Evelyn finished, moving around the desk with the predatory grace of someone who'd spent years learning to weaponize every gesture. Every recommendation is standard industry practice. Every suggestion is what our competitors are already doing. You gave me a Toyota, Mr. Brooks, when I asked for a rocket ship. Maybe if you'd been clear about wanting a rocket ship instead of changing the parameters every other day, a competent strategist adapts. A reasonable boss provides consistent direction. The words hung in the air between them, dangerous and electric. Through the glass walls of her office, Daniel could see heads turning throughout the open workspace beyond. Great. An audience for his professional execution. Evelyn's expression didn't change, but something flickered in her gray eyes. Something that might have been anger or might have been interest. With her, it was impossible to tell. Let me be very clear, Mr. Brooks. She took another step closer, and Daniel caught the scent of her perfume. Something expensive and sharp, like bergamot and ambition. I don't hire people to tell me what I want to hear. I don't hire people to produce adequate work. I hire people who challenge themselves, who innovate, who sacrifice everything. The question came out raw, unfiltered. Who pretend they don't have lives outside these walls? Who act like nothing matters except the next campaign, the next client, the next impossible deadline? Evelyn's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. If you're not prepared to, I'm prepared to do my job. An excellent job. But I'm also prepared to be there when my daughter's school calls because she's sick. I'm prepared to leave at 6 o'clock sometimes because she needs dinner and help with homework. I'm prepared to be a human being, not a machine. Then perhaps you're in the wrong industry. Or perhaps I'm working for the wrong person. The silence that followed was absolute. Somewhere in the office beyond, a phone rang and went unanswered. Someone dropped a pen. The normal sounds of workplace life continued, But inside this glass box, the world had narrowed to just two people locked in a battle neither seemed willing to lose. Daniel watched emotions flicker across Evelyn's face in rapid succession. Anger, definitely, but also something else, something that looked almost like pain. "You think you're the first person to waltz in here and lecture me about work-life balance?" Her voice had dropped to something dangerously quiet. "You think you're the first to imply that success and humanity are mutually exclusive? I think you've built a reputation on being untouchable, and you mistake isolation for strength." He knew immediately he'd gone too far. The words had come from that deep place of frustration that lived in his chest these days, the place that remembered Lily's face when he missed her school play last month, the place that tallied up all the promises broken in the name of professional survival. Evelyn went very still. When she spoke again, her voice could have frozen water. "You know nothing about me, Mr. Brooks. I know enough. I know you expect everyone to live the same monastic existence you've chosen. I know you think emotions are weaknesses and that asking for basic human consideration is, you want to talk about consideration?" Something cracked in her voice, just for a second. "You want to talk about what it takes to build something real in an industry designed to chew people up? About making choices that—" She stopped abruptly, as if she'd caught herself about to reveal something forbidden. Daniel's anger faltered. For just a moment he saw something behind her armor, something vulnerable and quickly hidden. "Miss Cross, don't!" She held up one hand and he noticed it was shaking slightly. "Just don't." They stood there 3 feet apart, breathing hard like fighters between rounds. The glass walls around them felt both protective and exposing, keeping the world out while putting them on display. "I can't do this anymore," Daniel said finally, and he wasn't entirely sure what this meant. This job? This argument? This exhausting dance of professional combat? Then quit. The words should have been harsh, but they came out almost gentle. "If you can't meet the standards, leave." "Maybe I will." "Fine." "Fine." Neither of them moved. Later, Daniel would try to reconstruct the exact sequence of events that happened next. He would replay it in his mind 1,000 times, searching for the moment when everything shifted from impossible to inevitable. Was it the way Evelyn's hand came up, perhaps to push him away, or perhaps to keep him there? Was it the way he leaned forward, driven by frustration or fascination, or some combustible mixture of both? Was it the split second when their eyes met and something wordless passed between them? An acknowledgement of warfare and respect and something else entirely? He would never know for certain. What he knew was this: one moment they were adversaries locked in bitter combat, and the next her lips were on his. The kiss was not gentle, it was not tender, it was fierce and angry and desperate, like two people grabbing onto each other in the middle of a storm. Her hand fisted in his collar. His fingers caught in her hair, destroying that severe bun. The glass desk pressed cold against his back as she pushed forward, and he responded with equal force, months of tension exploding into something neither of them could name. It lasted maybe 10 seconds. It destroyed everything. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Daniel's first coherent thought was of the glass walls. The transparent, merciless glass walls that hid absolutely nothing from the 43 employees currently staring at them with expressions ranging from shock to delight to horror. "Oh God," he whispered. Evelyn stepped back so quickly she nearly stumbled. Her hand went to her mouth. Her lipstick was smudged, her hair falling loose around her shoulders. She looked nothing like the Ice Queen of Cross Media. She looked human and terrified and utterly undone. "Get out," she said. "Ms. Cross, get out." Her voice wasn't angry. It was broken. Daniel grabbed his laptop bag and fled. The walk from Evelyn's office to his cubicle took approximately 45 seconds and felt like 45 years. Every eye in the office tracked his movement. Conversations died mid-sentence. Someone's typing actually stopped. Marcus Chen, the senior copywriter who'd taken Daniel under his wing when he'd first started, stood by the break room coffee maker with his mouth literally hanging open. Daniel didn't look at anyone. He made it to his desk, grabbed his coat, and kept walking toward the elevators. His phone buzzed in his pocket, probably Katie from HR, already scheduling his termination meeting, but he ignored it. The elevator doors closed on an office full of whispers. He made it all the way to his car in the parking garage before the shaking started. What had he done? What had they done? In front of everyone, visible through those goddamn glass walls like actors on a stage they never auditioned for. His career at Cross Media was over, that much was certain. 6 months of barely keeping his head above water, and he'd just torpedoed it all with one impossible, inexplicable kiss. Except it hadn't felt impossible in the moment. It had felt inevitable. Daniel's phone buzzed again. This time it was Lily's school. "Mr. Brooks, this is Janet from Maple Grove Elementary. Lily's not feeling well. She's asking for you. Can you come pick her up?" The whiplash from corporate disaster to parental duty was so sharp it actually helped. This, at least, he knew how to handle. "I'll be there in 15 minutes. He drove through downtown Seattle with his mind split between what had just happened and what he needed to do next. Stop at the pharmacy for children's Tylenol. Call Mrs. Martinez next door to see if she could check on Lily after school tomorrow if he had to go in for the inevitable termination meeting. Figure out how to explain to an 8-year-old why Daddy might be job hunting again. The thought made his chest tight. Lily had been through enough upheaval in her young life. After her mother left, just vanished one day 18 months ago. No note, no explanation, just gone. Daniel had promised his daughter that he'd keep things stable. New school, new apartment, new job. A fresh start. Some start this had turned out to be. Maple Grove Elementary sat in a tree-lined neighborhood that always made Daniel ache a little. This was the kind of place where families had 2 parents and golden retrievers and time for soccer practice. Not the kind of place where a single dad worked 70-hour weeks and still barely covered rent. Janet, the school nurse, smiled sympathetically when he arrived. "She's in the recovery room. Fever of 100.2, complaining of a sore throat. Probably just a virus, but better safe than sorry." Lily looked impossibly small curled up on the vinyl cot, clutching the stuffed elephant she'd refused to leave home without this morning. Her blonde hair stuck to her sweaty forehead, and when she saw Daniel, her face crumpled. "Daddy." "Hey, sweetheart." He knelt beside the cot, pressing his hand to her forehead. Definitely warm. "Feeling pretty crummy, huh?" "My throat hurts, and Mrs. Peterson was reading to us, and the words got all blurry. Let's get you home and into your pajamas, okay? We'll have soup and watch a movie. Can we watch Moana again?" "We can watch Moana 100 times if you want." She managed a small smile at that, and Daniel felt something in his chest unclench slightly. Whatever chaos was imploding in his professional life, this was what mattered. This small person who depended on him. This responsibility he'd never regret. He was signing Lily out at the front desk when a voice behind him said, "Mr. Brooks?" Daniel turned, already forming an apology for whoever's child had witnessed his daughter's illness, and froze. Evelyn Cross stood in the elementary school hallway wearing jeans. Actual jeans paired with a simple cream sweater and her hair still loose from their earlier encounter. She looked younger, softer, and somehow more terrifying for being out of context. "What are you doing here?" The question came out more sharply than he intended, protective instinct flaring. His arm moved unconsciously to shield Lily. Something flickered across Evelyn's face. Hurt, maybe, or shame. "I volunteer here. Every Wednesday afternoon. I read to the second graders." Daniel stared at her. "You... what? Is this your daughter?" Evelyn's gaze had shifted to Lily, and her entire expression transformed. The Ice Queen melted into something warm and concerned. "Hi there. I'm Miss Cross. Are you feeling okay?" Lily, usually shy with strangers, studied Evelyn with the unnervingly direct assessment only children could manage. "My throat hurts. Are you one of the reading ladies?" "I am. You're in Mrs. Peterson's class, right? I read there last week." "You did the funny voices for the dragon book." A genuine smile crossed Evelyn's face, and Daniel felt reality tilt slightly. This was wrong. Evelyn Cross didn't smile like that. She didn't volunteer at elementary schools. She didn't wear jeans and speak gently to sick children. "Lily loves that book," he said numbly. "It's a good one." Evelyn crouched down to Lily's level, completely unselfconscious. "Hey, can I tell you a secret? When I was your age, I had a sore throat all the time. You know what made me feel better? Lily shook her head. Hot chocolate with extra marshmallows and a good story. Think your dad might be able to arrange that? Daddy makes good hot chocolate, Lily said loyally, though her hand found Daniel's and squeezed. I bet he does. Evelyn stood, and when her eyes met Daniel's, all the warmth drained away, replaced by something more complicated. I should go. The second graders are waiting. Ms. Cross? We'll talk later, Mr. Brooks. Take care of your daughter. She walked away down the elementary school hallway, and Daniel watched her go with a feeling like vertigo. Nothing made sense. The woman who'd kissed him in rage and desperation, who'd built an empire on ruthless standards, who seemed to treat human emotion like enemy territory, that woman volunteered at his daughter's school, read stories with funny voices, knew the secret remedy for childhood sore throats. Daddy, Lily tugged his hand. I don't feel good. I know, baby. Let's get you home. But as he led his daughter to the car, Daniel couldn't shake the image of Evelyn crouching in that hallway, her entire being focused on making a sick child smile. Who was she, really? And what the hell had that kiss meant? What? The rest of Wednesday passed in a fever dream haze, literally, in Lily's case. Daniel made hot chocolate with extra marshmallows as prescribed, administered children's Tylenol, and settled his daughter on the couch with blankets and Moana queued up for the third time that month. His phone remained ominously silent. No call from HR. No termination email. No angry text from Evelyn demanding an explanation for their very public disaster. Just silence, which was somehow worse. Lily fell asleep halfway through the movie, her flushed face peaceful against his shoulder. Daniel stroked her hair and tried to think about anything except the feeling of Evelyn's lips on his, her hand fisted in his collar, the way she'd looked at him like he was something between enemy and salvation. His phone buzzed around 7 p.m. Daniel nearly dropped it trying to check the screen. Marcus. Dude? What the actual hell happened today? Daniel stared at the message. What could he possibly say? He didn't understand it himself. Honestly don't know. Is the whole office talking about it? Marcus. Is the office talking about the boss kissing the marketing director in full view of everyone? No, man. Nobody's mentioned it. We've all taken a vow of silence. That's a yes, then. Marcus. The betting pool on whether you'd survive your probationary period is now a betting pool on whether you're getting fired or promoted. Despite everything, Daniel almost laughed. I'm guessing the odds favor fired? Marcus. 3-1. But Jenna from accounting is betting promoted. She says she saw Evelyn's face after you left, and she's never seen the Ice Queen look shook before. Her words, not mine. Daniel shifted slightly, trying not to wake Lily. What's the protocol here? Do I come in tomorrow and pretend nothing happened? Marcus. No idea, man. This is unprecedented territory. Evelyn doesn't do whatever that was. She doesn't do anything except work and crush souls. But she does volunteer at elementary schools, Daniel thought. She does crouch in hallways and talk to sick children about hot chocolate remedies. She does know how to make a lonely little girl smile. I need this job, Marcus. Lily's insurance is through work. The apartment lease isn't up for 5 more months. I can't afford to get fired. Marcus. Then maybe don't kiss the boss in front of the entire office? She kissed me. Marcus. Okay, fair. Don't let the boss kiss you in front of the entire office. Noted for next time. Marcus. There's going to be a next time? Daniel looked at Lily's sleeping face, thought about Evelyn's expression in the school hallway, and typed, I have no idea what's going to happen next. Thursday morning arrived with Lily still feverish and Daniel facing an impossible choice. He couldn't take her to school sick. He couldn't leave her home alone. Mrs. Martinez had a doctor's appointment, and he absolutely definitely had to go into the office and face whatever consequences awaited. He was still weighing options when his phone rang at 7 a.m. Unknown number. Hello? Mr. Brooks, this is Katie from Cross Media HR. Katie's voice was professionally neutral, which was terrifying. I'm calling to inform you that Ms. Cross has cleared your schedule for today and tomorrow. She wanted you to know that you should take the time to care for your daughter without worrying about work obligations. Daniel nearly dropped the phone. What? Your PTO has been approved retroactively for both days. If you need additional time, please let me know. Ms. Cross also wanted me to relay that when you return Monday, she'd like to meet with you at 9 a.m. to discuss next steps regarding the Brennan campaign. The Brennan campaign? That was the project he'd supposedly failed so catastrophically at. Not anything else? Katie's voice warmed slightly with what might have been amusement. Ms. Cross was very specific about the agenda, Mr. Brooks. The Brennan campaign, 9 a.m. Monday. She also said, and I quote, "Tell him to focus on what matters right now." After the call ended, Daniel sat in his small kitchen, staring at his phone like it might explain the inexplicable. Evelyn had given him time off, had made sure he knew he should focus on Lily, had scheduled a work meeting rather than a termination. What game was she playing? Or, and this thought was more disturbing, what if this wasn't a game at all? Lily shuffled into the kitchen, elephant clutched under one arm, looking marginally better than yesterday, but still clearly sick. "No school today, sweetheart," Daniel said, pulling her into a hug. "How are you feeling?" "Still yucky. Can we have pancakes?" "Pancakes it is." They spent Thursday in their small apartment, a third-floor walk-up, in a neighborhood that was gentrifying around them like tide rising. Pancakes for breakfast, soup for lunch, more Moana, and a lot of napping. Lily's fever broke that evening, and she finally looked at him with clear eyes and said, "Daddy, you seem sad." "Just tired, baby." "Is it because of work?" Children saw too much. Daniel pulled her close and chose honesty. "Work is complicated right now, but that's not your problem to worry about. My job is to worry about you." "Are we going to move again?" The question hit him like a punch. They'd moved 3 times in 18 months, each time scrambling to find something affordable after Daniel lost another job to downsizing or his inability to work in human hours. Lily had learned to pack her stuffed animals with the resigned efficiency of a refugee. "No," he promised. "We're staying right here. I'm going to figure this out." "Okay." She snuggled against him, trusting in a way that made his chest ache. "I like this apartment, and I like my school. Miss Cross is nice." "You think so? She does really good voices when she reads, and she smells pretty." Lily yawned hugely. "Not like Mrs. Peterson. Mrs. Peterson smells like those candies old people have in their purses." Daniel laughed despite himself. "Lily Marie Brooks, that's not polite." "But it's true," she said, already half asleep. Friday passed similarly. More rest, more soup, Lily's appetite slowly returning. Daniel cleaned the apartment, did laundry, and tried not to think about Monday's meeting. Tried not to replay that kiss over and over in his mind, searching for meaning in the way her hand had trembled, the way she'd looked at him after, like he'd broken something precious. Saturday, Lily was well enough to complain about being bored, which Daniel took as a good sign. Sunday, they went to the park and Lily ran around with her usual energy while Daniel sat on a bench and finally let himself think about what he was going to say when he saw Evelyn again. "I'm sorry" seemed both necessary and completely insufficient. What was that? Was honest, but maybe too confrontational. Can we pretend it never happened? Was probably impossible given that the entire office had witnessed it. By Sunday night, he'd settled on a plan. Apologize. Be professional. Accept whatever consequences she deemed appropriate. Hope she'd let him keep his job long enough to find something else. It wasn't a great plan, but it was all he had. Monday morning, Daniel arrived at Cross Media at 8:30, wearing his best suit and enough anxiety to power a small city. The office looked exactly the same. Modern glass and steel, motivational posters that felt deeply ironic, desks arranged in precise rows. But everything felt different knowing that 4 days ago he'd kissed his boss where everyone could see. The stares started immediately. Marcus gave him a subtle thumbs up from across the room. Jenna from accounting actually winked. Someone had the decency to pretend to be absorbed in their computer screen, but Daniel could feel the weight of attention following him. Katie appeared at his elbow like a professionally dressed guardian angel. "Miss Cross is ready for you. Conference room B." Not her glass-walled office, then. Somewhere more private. Daniel wasn't sure if that was better or worse. Conference room B was tucked in the back corner of the office, with actual walls and a door that closed. Evelyn stood by the window overlooking downtown Seattle, her back to the door. She'd returned to her armor, a navy suit that probably cost more than Daniel's car, hair back in its severe bun, every inch the untouchable executive. "Close the door," she said without turning around. Daniel did. They stood in silence for a long moment. Outside the window, the city moved through its Monday morning routine, cars and people, and the ferry crossing Elliott Bay. Inside this room, the world had narrowed to two people who'd collided in all the wrong ways. "How's your daughter?" Evelyn asked finally. "Better. Thank you for the time off." It was the right thing to do. Even after... Daniel stopped, unsure how to finish that sentence. Evelyn turned to face him, and her expression was carefully controlled. Too controlled. "What happened Wednesday was inappropriate, unprofessional, and cannot happen again. I take full responsibility. I initiated it. I crossed a line that should never have been crossed." Daniel blinked. Of all the things he'd expected her to say, a straightforward acknowledgement and apology wasn't on the list. "Ms. Cross, I'm not firing you," she continued, steamrolling over his attempt to speak. "Your work on the Brennan campaign, while conservative, was solid. I was too harsh in my criticism. I've been too harsh in a lot of my management lately." She paused, something vulnerable flickering across her face. "When I saw you at the school with your daughter, it reminded me that you're not just an employee. You're a parent trying to do your best in an impossible situation. I respect that." "You volunteer there," Daniel said, still trying to reconcile the Ice Queen with the woman who'd crouched in that hallway. "Why?" For the first time since he'd entered the room, Evelyn's control slipped. She looked away, jaw tight. "That's personal." "So was Wednesday." The words hung in the air between them, a challenge and an acknowledgement wrapped together. Evelyn's laugh was sharp and humorless. "Fair enough." She moved to the conference table, gripped the back of a chair like she needed the support. "I grew up in foster care. 7 different homes between ages 6 and 16. Some good, some less good. But there was one elementary school I stayed at for almost 3 years, the longest I was anywhere, and the librarian there used to read to us at lunch. She did voices. Made every story feel like magic." Daniel's heart clenched. "Ms. Cross, she was the first person who made me feel like I mattered," Evelyn continued, words coming faster now, like a dam breaking. "Like I deserved attention and care. When I made enough money to give back, I remembered her. So I volunteer every Wednesday, because maybe some kid who feels invisible will hear a story and feel seen." The silence that followed was profound. Daniel thought about every harsh word they'd exchanged, every assumption he'd made about her. He thought about the Ice Queen reputation she'd cultivated, the armor she wore so convincingly, and underneath all of it, a girl who'd been abandoned over and over, who'd learned that control was safer than connection. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "I judged you without knowing you." "You weren't wrong to judge me," Evelyn said. "I am exactly what I appear to be, demanding, cold, too focused on work because work is safe and controllable and can't leave you. But you're also the person who reads with funny voices and knows how to help sick kids feel better. That's different. Is it?" Evelyn met his eyes, and for just a moment, all her armor fell away. She looked tired and lonely and achingly human. "What do you want from me, Daniel?" The use of his first name sent electricity down his spine. "I want to understand what Wednesday meant. Why we... It was a mistake," she said firmly. "Stress and anger and proximity. It meant nothing." "I don't believe you." "Then you're a fool." "Probably," Daniel agreed. "But I saw your face after. You looked as terrified as I felt. That's not nothing." Evelyn turned away, shoulders rigid. When she spoke again, her voice was barely audible. "I don't know how to do this. Connection, vulnerability. I built this company brick by brick because I could trust myself and I couldn't trust anyone else. Every person I've ever let close has left. Every single one." "So you push people away first," Daniel said, understanding clicking into place. "Including me. Especially you." She glanced back at him, something raw in her expression. "Because you saw me, really saw me, and that's terrifying." Daniel took a step forward. You want to know what I see? No. I see someone brilliant who's convinced herself that success and connection are mutually exclusive. I see someone who gives to others, those kids at the school, but won't let anyone give to her. I see someone who's spent so long building walls that she's forgotten how to build bridges. Stop, Evelyn whispered. I see someone worth knowing, Daniel finished. Worth the risk. The vulnerability in her eyes was shattering. For a long moment, she just looked at him. And he could see the war happening inside her, the urge to run versus the desperate, terrified hope that maybe she didn't have to be alone. I'm your boss, she said finally. This is impossible. Probably. We'd be violating company policy. Definitely. You have a daughter who comes first. Always, Daniel agreed. And you have control issues that would drive most people crazy. Despite everything, Evelyn's lips twitched toward a smile. You're not selling this well. I'm not selling anything. I'm just stating facts. Wednesday happened. It was impossible and inappropriate, and I haven't stopped thinking about it. About you. About who you are when the armor comes down. He took another step closer, watching her eyes widen. Tell me you haven't thought about it too. Of course I've thought about it, Evelyn said, voice rough. I've thought about nothing else. But thinking about something and acting on it are different things. Are they? They have to be. Daniel stopped just inches from her, close enough to see the pulse racing in her throat, the way her hands trembled slightly before she clenched them into fists. What if they don't? What if we acknowledged that something shifted between us and we figured out what to do about it like adults? Like adults, Evelyn repeated, almost laughing. Adults don't kiss each other in glass offices in front of their entire staff. No, Daniel agreed. They kiss in private conference rooms instead. He didn't move, didn't touch her, just stood there and let her make the choice. For several heartbeats, nothing happened. Then Evelyn closed the distance between them, her hand coming up to cup his face with surprising gentleness. This is a terrible idea, she whispered. The worst, Daniel agreed. I don't know how to do this. How to be open. We'll figure it out together. What if I mess it up? What if I hurt you or your daughter, or what if you don't? Daniel countered. What if for once you let yourself have something good? He watched emotions cascade across her face, fear and longing and desperate hope. Then she kissed him. This kiss was nothing like Wednesday's collision. It was slower, deeper, a question being asked and answered. Her hands slid into his hair. His arms came around her waist, pulling her closer. And for just a moment, in this private conference room with the door safely closed, they stopped being boss and employee, ice queen, and struggling single dad. They were just two people who'd fought and collided and somehow found something worth exploring in the wreckage. When they finally broke apart, both breathing unsteadily, Evelyn rested her forehead against his. We need rules, she said. Boundaries. We can't just... Agreed. We take this slow. We keep it private until we figure out what it is. We prioritize Lily. And work, Evelyn added. We don't let this affect the company. Of course. I mean it, Daniel. I've built cross-media into something that matters. I won't jeopardize it. I know. He pulled back enough to meet her eyes. But you matter too. You're allowed to have something for yourself. The look she gave him was equal parts grateful and terrified. Someone knocked on the conference room door, and they sprang apart like teenagers caught kissing. Marcus's voice came through. Daniel, the Brennan team is looking for you. Be right there, Daniel called, trying to sound normal rather than like he'd just kissed his boss for the second time in 5 days. Evelyn straightened her jacket, tucking an invisible hair back into her bun. The armor was returning, but not quite as impenetrable as before. We should get back to work. Yeah. Daniel headed for the door, then paused. Evelyn? She looked up, and he saw hope and fear warring in her expression. This is worth it, he said quietly. Whatever happens next, it's worth it. For just a moment, she let herself smile. We'll see. As Daniel left the conference room and headed back into the chaos of the office, he could feel the weight of knowing glances and whispered conversations. The entire company would be speculating about what had happened in that closed-door meeting. Let them, he thought. let them wonder and gossip and make their betting pools. Because for the first time in months, maybe years, something in his life felt like possibility instead of obligation. The road ahead would be complicated. Evelyn had demons to face and walls to dismantle. He had a daughter to protect and a career to navigate. The odds of this working out were probably terrible, but when he glanced back through the conference room's window and saw Evelyn watching him with that complicated expression, hope and terror, and something that might become trust, Daniel thought maybe terrible odds were better than no chance at all. The kiss had been a mistake, but maybe some mistakes were worth making. The following 3 weeks existed in a strange liminal space between professional propriety and something Daniel didn't quite have words for yet. At work, he and Evelyn maintained careful distance, no lingering glances across conference rooms, no unnecessary meetings behind closed doors, no hint to the gossip-hungry office that anything had changed. She was still exacting in her standards, still pushed him harder than seemed reasonable, still corrected his presentations with that sharp precision that made junior employees flinch. But now Daniel understood the language beneath the criticism. When she told him his social media strategy lacked innovation, she stayed an extra 20 minutes helping him brainstorm alternatives. When she questioned his budget allocation for the Peterson account, she walked him through her reasoning instead of simply dismissing his approach. The Ice Queen was still there, but cracks had appeared in the glacier. Outside work was different territory entirely. They'd agreed to take things slowly, which in practice meant stolen coffee dates at a cafe 3 neighborhoods away, where no one from cross-media would recognize them. They meant text messages that started professional and drifted into something warmer as evenings progressed. They meant one dinner at a restaurant overlooking the Sound, where Evelyn had laughed. Actually laughed, head thrown back and unguarded, at Daniel's story about Lily's disastrous attempt to make breakfast in bed. She used salt instead of sugar in the pancakes, Daniel had explained, grinning at the memory, and when I tried to eat them anyway because I didn't want to hurt her feelings, she said, "Daddy, you don't have to pretend. They taste like the ocean had a baby with sadness." Evelyn's laughter had turned heads at nearby tables. She said that? At 8 years old? She's got her mother's way with words, Daniel said, then immediately regretted it as shadows crossed Evelyn's face. Do you talk about her? With Lily, I mean. Sometimes. Lily asks questions and I answer them honestly. That her mom loved her but wasn't ready to be a parent. That sometimes people make choices we don't understand. He'd reached across the table, covering Evelyn's hand with his own. I don't lie to her about hard things. Good, Evelyn had said quietly. Kids deserve truth. They hadn't kissed again after that conference room moment. Daniel was conscious of moving at a pace Evelyn could handle, watching her slowly learn to lower defenses that had probably saved her life more than once. Every revealed piece of her history, the foster homes, the loneliness, the determination to build something permanent in a world that had offered nothing but impermanence, made him understand her better and want to protect her more. Which was why, when his phone rang at 2:30 on a Thursday afternoon and Lily's school appeared on the caller ID, his first thought was panic, and his second thought was, don't tell Evelyn. Mr. Brooks, this is Principal Morrison at Maple Grove. Lily's fine, but we need you to come to the school. There's been an incident. An incident. That careful principal-speak word that could mean anything from playground scuffle to something genuinely serious. What kind of incident? I'd prefer to discuss it in person. How soon can you be here? Daniel looked at his computer screen, where half-finished analytics for the Brennan campaign stared back at him. He had a meeting at 4. Evelyn expected the revised proposal by end of day. 20 minutes, he said. He grabbed his jacket and headed for the elevator, trying to ignore the way his heart was racing. Lily was fine, Morrison had said. Fine was good. Fine meant not hurt, not sick, not... Leaving early? Daniel turned to find Evelyn standing by the elevator bank, laptop under one arm, expression carefully neutral. Behind her, he could see Marcus and 2 other colleagues pretending not to watch their interaction. Family emergency, Daniel said, which was both true and deliberately vague. I'll have the Brennan revisions to you by tomorrow morning. Something flickered in Evelyn's eyes, concern maybe, or hurt that he hadn't told her details. But she simply nodded. Family comes first. We'll adjust the timeline. The elevator doors opened. Daniel stepped inside, and just before they closed, he saw Evelyn's mask slip for just a second. She looked worried. Maple Grove Elementary had that particular smell all schools seemed to share: floor cleaner, construction paper, and the vague sweetness of cafeteria food. Principal Morrison's office was decorated with children's artwork and motivational posters, which somehow made Daniel more nervous rather than less. Lily sat in a chair outside the office, looking small and miserable. When she saw Daniel, her face crumpled. "I'm sorry, Daddy. I'm so sorry." Daniel crouched in front of her, hands on her shoulders. "Hey, it's okay. Just tell me what happened." "Miss Brooks kicked Tyler Matthews in the shin," Principal Morrison said from her office doorway, rather forcefully, from what witnesses report. Daniel's eyebrows shot up. Lily was the gentlest kid he knew, the type who cried when they read Charlotte's Web, who refused to kill spiders because they might have spider families. Violence wasn't in her nature. "There must be some explanation," he said. "Oh, there is." Morrison's expression was complicated. "Perhaps we should discuss this inside." In the principal's office, Morrison pulled out a folder containing several pieces of paper covered in a child's handwriting. Daniel recognized Lily's careful printing immediately. "We've been doing a unit on family trees," Morrison explained. "The children were asked to create a visual representation of their families and write about what makes their family special. Most children found this straightforward. Lily's project, however, raised some questions among her classmates." Daniel picked up the papers. Lily had drawn a family tree with just 2 branches, one labeled Daddy and one labeled Me. In her careful handwriting, she'd written, "My family is special because my daddy works really hard to take care of me. He makes me pancakes and helps with homework and reads me stories even when he's tired. I don't have a mommy right now, but Daddy says that's okay because families come in all different shapes." His throat tightened. "Tyler Matthews apparently told Lily that her family tree was wrong," Morrison continued, "that everyone has a mommy and she was lying about not having one. When Lily insisted her family was complete with just her and her father, Tyler said, and I'm quoting here, 'Your mommy probably left because you were annoying.'" White-hot rage flashed through Daniel's chest. He said that to her? He's 7 and repeating things he's heard at home, unfortunately. Tyler's parents are going through a contentious divorce. Morrison sighed. "But yes, he said it. Lily asked him to stop. He said it again, louder, so she kicked him." Daniel looked at his daughter through the office window. She was hunched in the chair, clutching her backpack like a shield. "Is Tyler okay?" "Bruised shin, bruised ego. He'll survive." Morrison leaned forward. "Mr. Brooks, I'm not calling you in to punish Lily. She's already very upset about using violence, and frankly, I can't blame her for reacting to such cruel words. But I'm concerned about how she's processing her mother's absence. Our counselor is available if you think it might help." "I'll think about it," Daniel said, though what he was really thinking was how to explain to an 8-year-old that some people were casually cruel, that words could wound deeper than any kick, that the world wasn't always kind to families that looked different. "One more thing," Morrison said gently. "Several children have mentioned seeing Lily talking with Ms. Cross during Wednesday reading sessions. Apparently they've developed quite a rapport." Daniel's heart skipped. "Is that a problem?" "Not at all. Ms. Cross is one of our most dedicated volunteers. I just wanted you to know that Lily has been seeking her out specifically, asking her questions about books and stories." Morrison smiled. "It's sweet, actually. Ms. Cross seems quite fond of her." The drive home was quiet. Lily stared out the window, radiating misery. "Am I in trouble?" she finally asked in a small voice. "We don't kick people," Daniel said, because that needed to be clear. "Even when they're being mean, even when they deserve it. Violence isn't how we solve problems." "I know." Tears started sliding down her cheeks. "But he said Mommy left because of me, and I got so mad and my brain got all hot and my leg just kicked him." Daniel pulled into their apartment complex parking lot and turned to face his daughter. "Tyler was wrong, Lily. Completely wrong. Your mom leaving had nothing to do with you. You were 3 years old. None of it was your fault." "Then why did she go?" It was the question she'd asked 100 times in 18 months, and Daniel still didn't have a good answer. The truth, that Sarah had left a note saying she wasn't cut out for motherhood, that she needed to find herself, that she was sorry, but not sorry enough to stay, wasn't something an 8-year-old could understand. He barely understood it himself. Sometimes grown-ups make choices that don't make sense, he said carefully. Your mom was dealing with things inside her own head and heart that had nothing to do with how wonderful you are. You are smart and kind and creative, and any parent would be lucky to have you. Then why doesn't she want me? The question broke something in Daniel's chest. He unbuckled both their seatbelts and pulled Lily into his lap, letting her cry against his shoulder while he held her tight. I don't know, baby. I don't know. But I want you. Every single day, every single minute. You're the best thing that ever happened to me. They sat in the car until Lily's tears subsided. Daniel carried her upstairs. She was getting too big for this, really, but she curled against him like she used to when she was tiny and settled her on the couch with hot chocolate and her favorite stuffed elephant. His phone buzzed. A text from Evelyn. Everything okay? Daniel stared at the message. The careful distance they'd maintained, the boundaries they'd drawn, all of it suddenly felt insufficient. He wanted to tell her what happened, wanted her perspective, her insight, maybe just her presence. Instead, he typed, "Will be, just some school stuff. Talk tomorrow?" Her response came immediately. I'm here if you need anything. 3 weeks of slow steps forward, and Daniel was starting to realize that Evelyn might be more ready for this than either of them had expected. The Ice Queen was melting, and underneath was someone who genuinely cared. Lily fell asleep early, exhausted from emotional upheaval. Daniel tucked her in, kissed her forehead, and was heading to the kitchen when someone knocked on his apartment door. He wasn't expecting anyone. Mrs. Martinez next door sometimes came by to borrow sugar or share gossip, but she usually called first. Daniel opened the door and froze. Evelyn stood in his apartment hallway wearing jeans and a sweater, holding a grocery bag and looking uncertain in a way he'd never seen her look at work. I know we said slow, she said before he could speak. I know we said boundaries and private and taking our time, but Morrison called me. Morrison called you? I'm listed as an emergency volunteer contact for the school. She wanted to make sure I knew what happened with Lily so I could be sensitive if she seemed upset during Wednesday reading. Evelyn shifted the grocery bag. She told me what Tyler said about Lily's mom. Daniel leaned against the door frame, suddenly exhausted. She kicked him. I heard. Good for her. Despite everything, Daniel almost smiled. I can't encourage violence as a solution. No, but you can acknowledge that sometimes rage is a perfectly reasonable response to cruelty. Evelyn held up the grocery bag. I brought ice cream, and that dragon book Lily loves. I thought maybe she could use both. Something warm unfurled in Daniel's chest. This woman, this complicated, brilliant, damaged woman, had driven across town on a weeknight because an 8-year-old she barely knew was hurting. She's asleep, he said softly, but come in anyway. Evelyn stepped into his small apartment, and Daniel saw her taking it in. The mismatched furniture, Lily's drawings covering the refrigerator, the general organized chaos of a single parent's life. It was nothing like Evelyn's sleek downtown condo, he was sure. It was cramped and cluttered and real. It's perfect, Evelyn said, as if reading his mind. It feels like a home. They ended up on the couch with the ice cream between them, talking in low voices so they wouldn't wake Lily. Daniel told her about the family tree project, about Tyler's cruelty, about Lily's question that had no good answer. Evelyn listened with the same intense focus she brought to work presentations, but this time it was directed entirely at understanding his daughter's pain. I used to make up stories about my parents, she said eventually. In the foster homes, when kids asked why I didn't have a real family, I'd say they were scientists in Antarctica or secret agents on important missions. Anything except the truth, which was that they just didn't want the responsibility of a kid. Evelyn? I'm not saying this for sympathy, she interrupted gently. I'm saying I understand what Lily's going through, the questions that don't have good answers, the wondering if you're fundamentally unlovable, the way other kids can be casually vicious about things they don't understand. Daniel reached for her hand. You're not unlovable. I spent 30 years convinced I was. She squeezed his fingers. I'm still learning to believe differently. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Outside, Seattle traffic hummed. Inside, Lily's stuffed elephant watched them from the armchair where she'd left it. "Can I tell you something?" Evelyn asked. "Something I haven't told anyone?" "Always. When I volunteer at the school, reading to those kids, Lily's one of the ones who really listens. She asks questions about the characters' feelings. She wants to know what happens after the story ends. She sees deeper than most adults I work with." Evelyn's voice went soft. "She reminds me of myself at that age, before I learned to hide everything behind armor." "She talks about you too," Daniel admitted. "She says you do the best voices and you smell pretty." Evelyn laughed quietly. High praise from an 8-year-old. "She has good instincts about people." "Does she know about us?" The question hung in the air, weighted with implications. Daniel shook his head. "Not yet. I wanted to make sure this was real before I introduced that complexity into her life. She's been through enough disruption." "That's wise." Evelyn was quiet for a moment. "For what it's worth, this feels real to me. Terrifying and complicated and probably inadvisable, but real." Daniel shifted closer, their shoulders touching. "Me too." "I should go," Evelyn said, but she didn't move. "It's late and you have work tomorrow, and I'm probably overstepping by being here." "You're not overstepping. You're being exactly what we both needed tonight." She turned to look at him, and in the dim lamplight of his small living room, all her careful defenses were down. She looked young and uncertain and hopeful. "I'm not good at this," she whispered. "At being there for people, at knowing what to say or do. I'll probably mess it up." "Then we'll unmess it together," Daniel said. He cupped her face gently, thumb brushing across her cheekbone. "You showed up tonight. That's not nothing. I brought ice cream. That's very little. You brought yourself. That's everything." He kissed her then, soft and slow, and this time there was no audience, no professional consequences, no reasons to hold back. Just two people finding their way towards something neither had been looking for, but both desperately needed. When they finally pulled apart, Evelyn rested her forehead against his. "I should really go now. Probably. Before Lily wakes up and this gets even more complicated." "Good thinking." Neither of them moved for another long moment. Eventually, Evelyn stood, smoothing her sweater with shaking hands. Daniel walked her to the door where she paused and looked back toward Lily's room. "Tell her I said the dragon book is in the bag," she said, "and that Tyler Matthews is a jerk who will probably peak in middle school." Daniel laughed. "I'll paraphrase that last part. Coward." But she was smiling as she said it. At the door, she kissed him once more, quick and sweet and full of promise. Then she was gone, footsteps echoing down the hallway. Daniel closed the door and leaned against it, feeling like the world had shifted on its axis somehow. 3 weeks ago, Evelyn Cross had been his impossible boss, the ice queen who made his professional life a waking nightmare. Now she was the woman who brought ice cream when his daughter was hurting, who understood abandonment and loneliness from the inside, who was learning, slowly and terrified, to let herself be cared for. His phone buzzed. A text from Evelyn. "Thank you for letting me in, literally and metaphorically." Daniel smiled. "Thank you for showing up. Same qualifiers. Is this what normal people do? Text sweet things after emotional conversations?" "I think so. We're probably doing it wrong. Definitely doing it wrong. See you tomorrow at work, where we'll pretend to have a completely professional relationship, while secretly thinking about kissing each other. Mr. Brooks, that's highly inappropriate. Miss Cross, you started it." There was a pause. Then, "I did, didn't I? Good night, Daniel." "Good night, Evelyn." The next morning, Lily seemed better, not fully recovered from the previous day's emotional turbulence, but resilient in that remarkable way children had. She found the dragon book in the grocery bag and clutched it to her chest. "Ms. Cross came?" she asked, eyes wide. Daniel had decided honesty was always best. "She heard you had a tough day and wanted to bring you something to feel better." "She's really nice," Lily said, "even though she dresses like a businesswoman." "What's wrong with dressing like a businesswoman?" "Nothing. But she smiles more when she reads to us, like she's happy we're there." Lily opened the dragon book, studying the illustrations. "Can we read this tonight?" "Absolutely." At work, Daniel and Evelyn maintained their careful professional distance, But something had fundamentally changed. When she critiqued his presentation on the Morrison account, her feedback came with context and coaching. When he disagreed with her strategy for client outreach, she actually listened instead of steamrolling. They were learning to work together as partners rather than adversaries. Marcus cornered Daniel by the coffee machine that afternoon. "Okay, what's going on?" "What do you mean?" "The Ice Queen just complimented your work in front of the entire marketing team. Actual compliments, not her usual, 'this is adequate but could be better' thing. Either you've been body snatched or something significant has changed." Daniel focused on his coffee. "Maybe she's just in a good mood." "Evelyn Cross doesn't do good moods. She does intense focus and barely contain frustration. This is different." Marcus studied him. "This is about that kiss, isn't it? Keep your voice down." "Oh my God, it is. You're actually, what, dating? Seeing each other? Conducting a torrid secret affair?" "Marcus? Dude, this is either the best idea or the worst idea in the history of workplace relationships, and I genuinely can't tell which." Daniel sighed. "Neither can we. But we're trying to figure it out." "Does she know about Lily?" "She met her at the school. She volunteers there on Wednesdays." Marcus's eyebrows shot up. "The Ice Queen volunteers with children? That's like finding out Darth Vader does charity work." "She's more complicated than people think." "Clearly." Marcus gripped Daniel's shoulder. "Look, I'm happy for you, genuinely. But be careful, okay? Office relationships are complicated even without the boss-employee dynamic. Add in a kid and Evelyn's intensity, and you're navigating some serious territory." "I know," Daniel said quietly. "Believe me, I know." The following Wednesday, Lily was vibrating with excitement about Volunteer Reading Day. Daniel dropped her at school and tried not to think about the fact that Evelyn would be spending time with his daughter, that these two parts of his life that he'd tried to keep carefully separated were now intersecting in ways he couldn't control. His phone rang at 11:30. The school again. Daniel's heart rate spiked. "Mr. Brooks, this is the school nurse. Lily's complaining of stomach pain and she's asking for you." Not again. Daniel grabbed his jacket. "I'm on my way." He found Lily curled on the same vinyl cot as last time, looking pale and miserable. But what stopped him in his tracks was Evelyn sitting beside the cot, holding Lily's hand and reading softly from the dragon book. And the dragon realized that breathing fire wasn't about destroying things, but about lighting the way for others in the darkness. Evelyn read, her voice gentle and soothing. Lily saw Daniel and her face crumpled. "Daddy, my tummy really hurts." "I know, sweetheart." Daniel crossed to the cot, automatically reaching to feel her forehead. No fever this time. "What did you eat for breakfast?" "Just cereal, but then during reading time with Ms. Cross, my stomach started hurting really bad." Evelyn stood, giving Daniel space but not leaving entirely. Their eyes met over Lily's head, and he saw his own worry reflected there. Janet, the nurse, appeared. "I think it might be anxiety-related, Mr. Brooks. She's been very worried about the Tyler situation. Some children somatize stress." Of course, the aftermath of violence, the fear of consequences, the ongoing emotional processing of cruel words, all of it manifesting in physical symptoms. "Can I take her home?" "I think that's best." Daniel was helping Lily sit up when she looked at Evelyn with wide, earnest eyes. "Will you come read the rest of the dragon book? At my house?" Evelyn froze. Daniel's mind raced through implications. This was crossing a line from professional interaction to personal, from volunteer reader to something closer to family friend. They'd agreed to take things slowly. They'd agreed to keep boundaries clear. But Lily was looking at Evelyn with such hope, and Evelyn was looking at Daniel with such uncertainty, and suddenly all the careful plans seemed less important than this moment. "If your dad says it's okay," Evelyn said carefully, "I could come by after work. I still have the whole book to finish." "Please, Daddy, please." Daniel met Evelyn's eyes. "Are you sure?" his expression asked. "I want to," hers answered. "Okay," he said. "Ms. Cross can come by around 6. Lily brightened immediately, which told Daniel the stomach pain was definitely stress-related. They drove home with Lily clutching the dragon book and chattering about how Miss Cross did the best dragon voice. even better than Daddy's, though she added loyally that Daddy's princess voice was superior. At 6 o'clock exactly, Evelyn knocked on the apartment door. She'd changed from her work suit into jeans and a soft blue sweater, and she was carrying a bag from the bookstore. I might have gotten carried away, she admitted when Daniel let her in, but the bookstore had the whole Dragon series, and I thought Lily might like them. You didn't have to. I wanted to. Lily bounded into the living room and stopped short, suddenly shy now that her volunteer reader was here in her actual home. But Evelyn crouched down to her level, same as she'd done in the school hallway that first day. Hi, Lily. Your dad said it's okay if we finish the dragon story. Does your stomach feel better? A little, Lily admitted. Sometimes when I'm worried, my tummy hurts. That happens to me too, Evelyn said. When I have big feelings, my body feels them just as much as my brain does. Really? Even grown-ups? Especially grown-ups. We just get better at hiding it. They settled on the couch, Lily in the middle, Evelyn on one side, Daniel on the other. Evelyn opened the dragon book and began reading, slipping into different voices for each character. The fierce dragon, the timid knight, the wise old tree who gave advice. Daniel watched his daughter's face transform from worried to delighted, watched her lean unconsciously against Evelyn's shoulder, watched Evelyn's free arm come around to hold her steady. This wasn't a volunteer reader and a student. This wasn't a boss visiting an employee's home. This was something deeper and more dangerous. This was the beginning of a connection that could grow into something real. When the book ended, Lily yawned hugely. Can we read another one? Tomorrow, Daniel said. Bedtime now. Lily surprised them both by hugging Evelyn tightly. Thank you for coming to read to me, and for bringing the books. Evelyn's expression went soft and overwhelmed. You're very welcome, sweetheart. Daniel tucked Lily into bed, answering her flood of questions about whether Ms. Cross would come read again, whether dragons were real, whether her stomach would hurt tomorrow. By the time he returned to the living room, Evelyn was standing by the window looking out at the darkening sky. That was, she started, then stopped. Terrifying, Daniel supplied. Perfect, Evelyn corrected. She turned to face him, and her eyes were bright with unshed tears. She's wonderful, Daniel. Smart and kind, and so brave after what she's been through. She likes you, he said. Really likes you. That hug wasn't obligatory. I've never... Evelyn's voice broke slightly. No child has ever hugged me like that before. Like I mattered, like I was safe. Daniel crossed to her, pulling her into his arms. She buried her face in his shoulder, and he felt her shaking slightly. This is real, she whispered against his shirt. This thing between us. It's not just attraction or convenience or filling empty spaces. It's real and complicated and involves your daughter, and I'm so scared I'll ruin it. You won't. You don't know that. I know you showed up tonight when you didn't have to. I know you brought books because you wanted to see her smile. I know you held her while she was scared and read to her like she was precious. Daniel pulled back enough to meet her eyes. I know you're already halfway to loving her, and that terrifies you. Evelyn's tears spilled over. What if I'm not enough? What if I can't be what she needs? What if you already are? He kissed her forehead, her cheeks, her lips. Soft reassurance that she was exactly where she belonged. When they finally pulled apart, Evelyn was still crying, but she was also smiling. I should go, she said. Let you both rest. Or you could stay, Daniel heard himself offer. Not, we'd just watch a movie or something, but you could stay. Evelyn searched his face. Are you sure? I've never been more sure of anything. They ended up on the couch again, this time with Evelyn tucked against Daniel's side, his arm around her shoulders. They didn't watch a movie. They just talked about Lily's resilience, about Evelyn's childhood, about the complications of blending their lives together, about hope and fear, and the terrifying possibility that something good could last. Somewhere around 10 o'clock, Evelyn fell asleep, her head on Daniel's shoulder, one hand curled against his chest. Daniel held her and thought about impossible things becoming possible, about ice queens melting, about families forming in unexpected configurations. His phone buzzed softly. A text from Marcus. The betting pool now has you married within a year. Jenna from accounting is aggressively defending this position. Daniel smiled and typed one-handed. Tell Jenna she might be on to something. When Evelyn woke an hour later, disoriented and apologetic, Daniel walked her to the door. She paused on the threshold, looking back toward where Lily slept. Thank you, she said quietly, for letting me be part of this, part of her life, part of yours. Thank you for being brave enough to try. After she left, Daniel checked on Lily one more time. His daughter was sleeping peacefully, the new dragon book stacked carefully on her nightstand, a slight smile on her face. The path ahead would be complicated. There would be questions to answer, boundaries to navigate, the inevitable moment when they'd have to explain their relationship to Lily and to the office and to the world. But standing in his daughter's doorway, watching her sleep secure and loved, Daniel thought maybe complicated was worth it. Maybe some families were built not from biology, but from choice, from showing up, from dragon books and ice cream and the courage to let walls come down. Maybe the best things in life were the ones you never saw coming until they changed everything. The next 2 months unfolded like a story Daniel hadn't dared write for himself. Evelyn became a fixture in their lives with a gradualness that felt both natural and miraculous. Wednesday reading sessions at school evolved into Friday pizza nights at the apartment, which somehow transformed into Saturday morning trips to the farmer's market, where Lily would grip Evelyn's hand and chatter about everything from clouds to caterpillars, while Evelyn listened with the same focused attention she brought to million-dollar client presentations. At work, they maintained their professional veneer with varying degrees of success. Daniel still presented campaign strategies in conference rooms, while Evelyn dissected them with surgical precision. She still pushed him harder than seemed reasonable, still expected excellence without compromise. But now when she stayed late helping him refine a pitch, her hand would sometimes find his under the table. Now when she corrected his approach to a difficult client, her emails ended with small intimacies that made his heart race. The office gossip had shifted from speculation to general acceptance. Marcus reported that the betting pool had evolved into something more benevolent. People were actually rooting for them now, invested in this impossible romance between the Ice Queen and the single dad who'd somehow made her smile. Lily knew Evelyn as her volunteer reader who came to dinner sometimes, who helped with homework and brought books and seemed genuinely interested in an 8-year-old's opinions about important matters like whether unicorns or dragons would win in a fight. Daniel had been careful about labeling the relationship, waiting for the right moment to explain that Ms. Cross was becoming someone special to both of them. That moment arrived on a Saturday morning in late November when Lily found them on the couch, Evelyn asleep with her head in Daniel's lap, while he read through work reports. Lily stood in the hallway in her pajamas, studying them with that unnervingly perceptive expression she sometimes wore. "Do you love Ms. Cross?" she asked with characteristic directness. Evelyn's eyes flew open. Daniel's hand stilled in her hair. The apartment went very quiet. "I think we should all sit down and talk," Daniel said finally. Over pancakes that Evelyn helped make, learning from Lily's previous salt instead of sugar disaster, they had the conversation Daniel had been both anticipating and dreading. He explained that sometimes grown-ups became friends and then became more than friends, that Ms. Cross was special to him and spending time with her made him happy, that this didn't change how much he loved Lily or how important she would always be. Lily absorbed this information with serious consideration, then turned to Evelyn. "Are you going to be my mom now?" Evelyn went pale. Daniel opened his mouth to intervene, but Evelyn found her voice first. "No, sweetheart. You have a mom. Even if she's not here right now, I could never replace her." She paused, choosing words carefully. "But I could be someone who cares about you very much. Someone who wants to be part of your life if you'll let me. What that looks like is up to you." "Like a bonus grown-up?" Lily asked. Despite the tension, Evelyn smiled. "Yes, exactly like a bonus grown-up." Lily considered this while methodically cutting her pancakes into perfect squares. "Okay, but you have to promise not to leave like Mommy did." The silence that followed was profound. Daniel saw Evelyn's throat work as she swallowed hard, saw her hands tremble slightly before she clasped them together. "Lily," Daniel started gently, "that's not fair to ask." "I promise," Evelyn interrupted. She looked at Lily with fierce intensity. I promise that even if things get hard or complicated, I won't just disappear. I'll talk to you and your dad about it. I'll be honest. I won't leave you wondering. Lily studied her for a long moment, then nodded. Okay. Can I have more syrup? Just like that, the conversation was over. Children had a remarkable ability to process seismic shifts and then return to immediate concerns like syrup quantities. But Daniel saw the way Evelyn's hand shook as she passed the syrup bottle, saw the weight of the promise she'd just made settling over her shoulders. After breakfast, while Lily was absorbed in building an elaborate Lego castle, Daniel found Evelyn standing by the kitchen window gripping the counter. Hey, he said softly. You okay? I just promised your daughter I wouldn't abandon her. Evelyn's voice was tight. I promised something I have no experience keeping. What if I mess this up? What if I can't be what she needs and I break that promise and hurt her the way everyone hurt me? Daniel turned her to face him, hands gentle on her shoulders. You showed up, Evelyn. You keep showing up. That's what matters. Is it enough? It's everything. She leaned into him, and he held her while she shook with the enormity of the commitment she'd made. Outside, November rain began to fall, Seattle's perpetual gray asserting itself. Inside, Lily's voice drifted from the living room as she narrated her Lego construction, and Daniel thought about families built from choice rather than obligation, about promises that terrified you precisely because they mattered so much. Work became both easier and more complicated after that. Easier because they'd stopped pretending there was nothing between them, because Evelyn no longer flinched when he touched her shoulder in passing or smiled at her across conference rooms. Complicated because their relationship now included a child who asked questions and had opinions and deserved consideration in every decision they made. The Tuesday before Thanksgiving, Daniel was deep in budget revisions when Katie from HR appeared at his desk wearing an expression he'd learned to dread. Daniel, could you come with me, please? His stomach dropped. Is this about... Just come with me. She led him to a small conference room where Evelyn already waited, looking pale and professional in a charcoal suit. Katie closed the door and pulled out a folder. I'll be direct. The company has received concerns about the nature of your relationship with Ms. Cross. We need to address potential policy violations regarding workplace relationships, particularly those with power dynamics. Daniel's blood ran cold. Who filed a complaint? That's confidential. But given Ms. Cross's position as your supervisor, we need to establish clear parameters. Katie opened the folder. Our options are Daniel transfers to a different department under different management, Ms. Cross recuses herself from decisions regarding Daniel's employment, or one of you resigns. The room spun slightly. Daniel looked at Evelyn, who sat perfectly still except for her hands, which were clenched so tightly in her lap her knuckles had gone white. I'll transfer, Daniel said immediately. Whatever department needs someone, I'll go. No, Evelyn's voice was sharp. You're one of the best strategists we have. The Brennan campaign succeeded because of your work. Moving you would be bad for the company and unfair to you. Then what do you suggest? Katie asked. I'll recuse myself from all decisions regarding Daniel's performance reviews, compensation, and advancement. Marcus can take over as his direct supervisor for HR purposes. I'll remain involved in projects because that's my job as CEO, but formal authority transfers. Katie made notes. That could work, but you both need to understand, any perception of favoritism, any hint that this relationship is affecting business decisions, and we revisit this conversation. Understood? They both nodded. After Katie left, Daniel and Evelyn sat in silence. Rain streaked the windows. Somewhere in the building, phones rang and keyboards clattered and normal work continued, oblivious to the way their world had just tilted. Who do you think complained? Daniel asked finally. Does it matter? Evelyn's voice was dull. They're not wrong. We are violating the spirit of workplace relationship policies. I am your boss. There is a power dynamic. We've been careful. Careful doesn't mean compliant. She stood, pacing to the window. Maybe this was a mistake. Maybe I should have maintained professional boundaries instead of, don't. Daniel crossed to her. Don't spiral into regret. We'll make this work. Will we? She turned to face him, and her eyes were haunted. Every time I think I can have something good, the universe reminds me why I built walls in the first place. People leave, systems fail, promises get broken. I'm not leaving. You're not leaving. We're adapting. What about Lily? If this affects my job, if I have to step back or resign, then we figure it out together, Daniel insisted. That's what partners do. Evelyn's laugh was bitter. Partners? I've spent 15 years building this company. It's the only permanent thing I've ever created, and now I'm risking it for... She stopped abruptly, but the words hung in the air anyway. For what? For him? For them? For the terrifying possibility of family? Daniel's phone buzzed. The school. His heart jumped. Mr. Brooks, Lily's fine, but there's been a situation. Her mother is here. The world stopped. What? A woman claiming to be Lily's mother arrived asking to see her. She has identification and appears legitimate, but given the circumstances, we need your authorization before Don't let her anywhere near Lily, Daniel said, voice harder than he'd ever heard it. I'm coming right now. He was halfway to the door before he realized Evelyn was following him. You don't have to. Yes, I do, she said simply. They drove to Maple Grove in tense silence, Daniel's hands white-knuckled on the steering wheel. Sarah. After 18 months of nothing, no calls, no letters, no child support, no explanation, she'd just shown up at their daughter's school like she had any right to be there. Rage burned through his veins, mixed with a terror he couldn't name. What did she want? Why now? And how was he supposed to explain this to Lily? Principal Morrison met them at the entrance, her expression professionally sympathetic. The woman is waiting in my office. I haven't told Lily she's here. I thought you should make that decision. What did she say? Daniel asked. That she's been getting her life together, that she wants to reconnect with her daughter, that she has rights as a biological parent. Morrison hesitated. Mr. Brooks, I should tell you, she's mentioned potentially pursuing custody arrangements. The floor dropped out from under Daniel. Custody. The word was violence, a threat to everything he'd built and protected for 18 months. Evelyn's hand found his, squeezing tightly. Breathe, she whispered. They walked to Morrison's office like condemned prisoners. Through the window, Daniel could see a woman sitting in one of the visitor chairs, blonde hair lighter than he remembered, thinner, wearing clothes that looked new and expensive. Sarah turned as they entered, and her face went through a complicated series of expressions. Surprise, guilt, something that might have been hope. Daniel, she said, thank you for seeing me. You have 5 minutes to explain why you're here. His voice came out flat and cold. Then you leave, and you don't come back without a lawyer and a court order. Sarah flinched. I know I have no right to ask for your understanding. You have no right to anything regarding Lily. You abandoned her, abandoned us. For 18 months, she's asked me why her mother doesn't want her, and I've had no answer except that you chose to leave. I was drowning. Sarah's voice broke. I had postpartum depression that never got treated. I was in a dark place and I thought she'd be better off without me. So you ran. No note, no explanation, no attempt to get help. I'm getting help now. I've been in therapy. I'm on medication that actually works. I have a stable job and an apartment, and I'm ready to be the mother Lily deserves. Lily deserves a mother who doesn't vanish when things get hard, Evelyn said quietly. It was the first time she'd spoken, and Sarah's attention snapped to her. Who are you? Someone who's been here, Evelyn said. Someone who's read to your daughter when she was scared, who's held her when her stomach hurt from anxiety about being abandoned, who's watched her build a family from the pieces you left behind. Sarah's eyes widened. You're the girlfriend? I'm someone who showed up, Evelyn replied, which is more than you did. The words were precise and cutting, and Daniel saw Sarah recoil from them. Good. Let her feel even a fraction of the pain she'd caused. I want to see her, Sarah said, turning back to Daniel. I'm her mother. I have rights. You gave up those rights when you left, Daniel shot back. If you want custody or visitation, get a lawyer and file paperwork. But you don't get to waltz back in and disrupt her life because you've decided you're ready now. She's my daughter. She's been my daughter for 18 months while you were nowhere to be found. She's built a life that doesn't include you, and I'll be damned if I let you hurt her again. Sarah stood, hands shaking. I'm not trying to hurt anyone. I'm trying to make amends. Amends require acknowledgement of harm and sustained changed behavior, Evelyn said. Showing up unannounced at her school after more than a year isn't amends, it's selfish. You don't know anything about me, Sarah snapped. I know abandonment, Evelyn replied. I know what it does to children. I know the scars it leaves, and I know that good intentions don't erase the damage of disappearing. Daniel watched Sarah's face crumple, watched her struggle between defensiveness and shame. Part of him, the part that had loved her once, that had built a life with her, wanted to soften. But the larger part, the part that had held their daughter through nightmares and questions, and the slow rebuilding of trust, remained iron hard. You need to leave, he said. If you're serious about reconnecting with Lily, do it through proper channels. Get a lawyer, file for mediation, prove over time that you're stable. But you don't get to show up at her school and expect access. Sarah grabbed her purse, tears streaming down her face. I've changed, Daniel. I'm not the person who left. Then prove it over months, not minutes. After she left, Morrison tactfully excused herself, leaving Daniel and Evelyn alone in the office. Daniel sank into a chair, adrenaline crash hitting him all at once. What am I going to tell Lily? He asked. Evelyn knelt in front of him, hands on his knees. The truth, that her mom came back and wants to be part of her life, but you need to make sure it's safe and healthy before that happens. She'll have questions. Of course she will, and you'll answer them honestly, same as you always have. Evelyn's thumbs traced small circles on his legs. You're an incredible father, Daniel. You've protected her and loved her and given her stability. Trust yourself. What if Sarah files for custody? What if a court decides Lily should be with her biological mother? Then we fight, Evelyn said fiercely. We document everything. We show the court who's been there day after day. We prove that biology doesn't trump consistency and love. Daniel looked at her, this woman who'd been terrified of commitment, who'd spent her life building walls, who was now kneeling in a principal's office promising to fight for his daughter, their daughter, increasingly. You don't have to do this, he said softly. This is messy and complicated and not what you signed up for. I signed up for you, Evelyn replied. All of you. That includes the complications. They picked Lily up from her classroom, where she was absorbed in an art project involving alarming amounts of glitter. She chattered about her day, oblivious to the drama that had unfolded. Daniel let her talk, trying to figure out how to explain that the mother who'd left had returned. At home, while Lily worked on homework at the kitchen table, Daniel pulled Evelyn aside. I need to tell her tonight, before Sarah shows up somewhere else or tries to contact her directly. Do you want me here, or would it be better if it was just you two? Daniel thought about Evelyn's promise to Lily, about not disappearing, about being honest even when things got hard. Stay, please. After dinner, they sat Lily down in the living room. Daniel took her hands in his, trying to find words for something that had no good explanation. Lily, honey, I need to tell you something important. Your mom came to the school today. Lily's eyes went huge. Mommy's back? She's in Seattle and she wants to see you, but we need to talk about what that means and how it might work. Can I see her now? Can she come here? The hope in his daughter's voice was a knife to Daniel's heart. Despite everything, despite the abandonment, the unanswered questions, the slow rebuilding of security, Lily still wanted her mother. Not right now, Daniel said gently. Mommy left for a long time, and that was very hard on both of us. Before she can be part of your life again, we need to make sure she's ready and that it's safe for your heart. Did she leave because of me? The question was small and terrified. No, baby, never because of you. She left because of things going on inside her own head that had nothing to do with how wonderful you are. Lily's eyes filled with tears. But she wants me now? She says she does. But wanting and being ready are different things. Grown-ups have to prove over time that they can be trusted, especially after breaking trust. Is Ms. Cross going to leave too? Lily turned to Evelyn with such raw vulnerability that Evelyn's composure cracked. No, Evelyn said, voice thick with emotion. I promised you I wouldn't disappear, remember? I keep my promises. Lily studied her for a long moment, then launched herself into Evelyn's arms. Evelyn caught her, holding tight, while Lily cried. for the mother who'd left, for the mother who'd returned, for the fear that everyone eventually abandoned her. Daniel joined the embrace, wrapping his arms around both of them. They sat on the living room floor in a tangle of arms and tears and fierce protection, three people who'd found each other through loss and were learning what it meant to choose family. Later, after Lily had cried herself to exhaustion and fallen asleep in her bed, clutching both her stuffed elephant and the dragon book Evelyn had given her, Daniel and Evelyn sat in the darkened living room. "She asked if you were going to leave," Daniel said quietly. "She's including you in her definition of family now." "I know." Evelyn's voice was shaky. "That terrifies me and fills me with more joy than I know what to do with. Sarah coming back changes things." "Does it change us?" Daniel turned to face her. "What do you mean?" "I mean," Evelyn struggled for words, "this is going to get complicated. Legal battles, custody negotiations, therapy for Lily to process having her mother back in her life. You're going to be stretched thin and stressed and dealing with your ex-wife who clearly still affects you. What if there's not room for me in all of that?" "There's always room for you," Daniel said fiercely. "Evelyn, you're not optional. You're not something I'll sacrifice when things get hard. You're part of this family now." "Family?" She tested the word like it was foreign. "I've never been part of anyone's family." "You are now. Lily loves you. I love you." The words slipped out before Daniel fully registered what he was saying, but once they were spoken, he knew they were true. Somewhere between that first impossible kiss and right now, he'd fallen completely in love with this brilliant, damaged, fierce woman who was learning to let herself be loved in return. Evelyn went very still. "You love me?" "Yes." "Even though I'm difficult and controlling and have enough emotional baggage to sink a ship?" "Even though. Because of. In spite of. All of it." Tears slipped down her cheeks. "I love you too. I didn't think I was capable of it, but I do. I love you and I love Lily, and the idea of losing either of you makes me want to burn the world down." Daniel kissed her then, soft and deep and full of promise. When they pulled apart, Evelyn was still crying, but she was also smiling. "What do we do about Sarah?" she asked. "We wait. We let her make the first legal move. We document everything and we protect Lily." Daniel pulled Evelyn closer. "And we do it together." "Together," Evelyn repeated. "I'm still learning what that means." "Me too." They sat in the darkness while Seattle rain drummed against the windows, holding each other and bracing for the storm they knew was coming. Sarah's return would complicate everything: custody battles, emotional upheaval, the careful stability they'd built. But for the first time in his life, Daniel didn't feel alone in facing it. Evelyn was here. She'd promised not to leave, and he believed her. The next morning, Daniel contacted a family lawyer. The conversation was sobering. Sarah had rights as a biological parent. Her mental health treatment could work in her favor. Courts generally favored reunification when possible. But Daniel had 18 months of sole custody, documentation of abandonment, and evidence of Lily's thriving in their current situation. "It won't be quick or easy," the lawyer warned, "but you have a strong case. Keep detailed records of everything. Maintain stability for your daughter. Don't badmouth the mother in front of the child." That last part was the hardest. Daniel wanted to rage against Sarah's audacity, her 18 months of silence followed by sudden demands for access. But every parenting book and therapist recommendation said the same thing. Children needed to form their own opinions about absent parents, uncolored by the remaining parents' bitterness. So he bit his tongue and explained to Lily that sometimes grown-ups made mistakes but could learn to do better, that her mother's love had never disappeared even if her presence had, that feelings were complicated and she was allowed to be both happy and scared about her mom's return. Lily processed all of this with the resilience of children and the fragility of someone who'd been wounded before. She had nightmares about people leaving. She asked constant questions about whether her mom was really staying this time. She clung to both Daniel and Evelyn with an intensity that was both heartbreaking and affirming. At work, the HR situation settled into an awkward new normal. Marcus officially became Daniel's supervisor on paper, which led to several comedy of errors moments when Marcus tried to give performance feedback, and both men dissolved into laughter. Evelyn remained involved in Daniel's projects, but carefully documented that all employment decisions went through Marcus. The office gossip evolved again. Now people whispered about whether Daniel and Evelyn would survive the ex-wife drama, whether Lily would choose her biological mother, whether love was enough when real life got this complicated. 3 weeks after Sarah's appearance at the school, Daniel received formal legal papers. She was filing for joint custody and a structured visitation schedule. The specifics made his blood run cold: alternating weekends, weekly dinners, eventual overnight visits. She wants to go from 0 to 50% custody, he said to Evelyn that night, papers spread across his kitchen table. She disappeared for 18 months, and now she wants half of Lily's life. What does your lawyer say? That courts will likely start with supervised visitation and build from there if Sarah proves stability, but the end goal could absolutely include significant custody time. Evelyn studied the papers with the same analytical focus she brought to business contracts. What does Lily want? She's 8. She wants her mommy back, but she's also scared. How do I balance honoring her feelings with protecting her from potential harm? You let her voice be heard in age-appropriate ways. You make sure the court knows what she's comfortable with. You trust that you've given her enough foundation to navigate this. Daniel dropped his head into his hands. I'm so tired of being strong. I'm so tired of making impossible decisions and hoping I'm not screwing up my kid. Evelyn moved behind him, hands on his shoulders. You're not alone in this anymore. What if the court asks about our relationship? What if they see it as instability? Me dating my boss, introducing a new person into Lily's life right when her mother returns? Then we tell them the truth, that Lily is loved by multiple adults who are committed to her well-being, that our relationship has been careful and intentional, that she's thriving. Are we sure she's thriving? Daniel asked. She had a meltdown at school yesterday because another kid asked about her mom. She's having nightmares. She won't let either of us out of her sight. She's processing trauma, Evelyn said gently. That's not the same as not thriving. She's feeling big feelings and expressing them, which is exactly what she should be doing. Daniel turned to look up at her. How did you get so wise about children? I was one, a broken one who had to figure things out alone. Her hands tightened on his shoulders. I won't let Lily go through what I did. Whatever it takes, lawyer fees, time off work, whatever, we protect her. We, Daniel repeated. You keep saying we, because that's what this is now. We're a family, Daniel. Unconventional and complicated and still figuring things out, but a family nonetheless. The mediation hearing was scheduled for early December. Daniel spent weeks preparing with his lawyer, documenting Lily's school records, therapy notes, medical appointments, every piece of evidence showing his consistent presence in her life. Sarah's lawyer countered with documentation of her mental health treatment, job stability, apartment lease, character references from her therapist and employer. On paper, it looked like a simple case of a mother who'd struggled and was now ready to parent. But Daniel knew the reality was more complex. The 18 months of silence, the birthdays missed, the nights Lily had cried herself to sleep wondering if she was unlovable. The night before the hearing, Lily asked if she had to see her mom. The judge will probably say yes to some visits, Daniel explained carefully, starting slow with other adults present to make sure everyone feels safe. What if I don't want to? Then we tell the judge that. Your feelings matter, sweetheart. Will Ms. Cross be there? At the court thing? Daniel glanced at Evelyn, who'd become a constant presence in their home. She'd moved from visitor to resident in slow increments, a toothbrush in the bathroom, clothes in the closet, her laptop on the kitchen table. They hadn't officially discussed living together, but somehow it was happening anyway. I can be if you want me there, Evelyn offered. Lily nodded solemnly. I want you there. The family court building was gray and institutional, designed to process human drama with bureaucratic efficiency. Daniel held Lily's hand while Evelyn walked beside them, and together they faced Sarah across a conference room table. His ex-wife looked better than she had at the school, healthier, more centered, but also nervous. Her eyes kept drifting to Lily with such naked longing that Daniel felt his anger waver slightly. She had left. She had caused immeasurable damage. But she was also clearly suffering from that choice. The mediator was a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. She explained the process. They'd discuss custody arrangements, visitation schedules, and what was in Lily's best interest. Lily would speak separately with a child advocate who would report her preferences to the court. "Mrs. Brooks," the mediator began. "Richardson," Sarah corrected quietly. I went back to my maiden name. "Ms. Richardson, can you explain why you're seeking custody now after 18 months of no contact?" Sarah's hands trembled as she pulled out a folder. I had severe postpartum depression that went undiagnosed for years. I was having dark thoughts, feeling like Lily would be better off without me. I thought leaving was protecting her from a mother who couldn't function. "Did you seek treatment at the time?" "No, I didn't understand what was wrong. I just knew I was drowning and I had to get out." "And in the 18 months since you left, have you attempted to contact your daughter? Send cards, gifts, establish any connection?" Sarah's voice broke. "No, I thought making a clean break was kinder than inconsistent contact. I was wrong." The mediator made notes. "Mr. Brooks, you have sole legal and physical custody currently. You're opposed to joint custody." "I'm opposed to disrupting Lily's stability," Daniel said carefully. "She's been in therapy working through abandonment issues. She's finally feeling secure. Sudden shared custody feels like it serves Sarah's needs more than Lily's." "I'm her mother," Sarah said. "I love her. I made mistakes, but I'm ready now to be the parent she deserves." "You were ready to be a parent 8 years ago when you chose to have a child," Evelyn said quietly. Everyone turned to look at her. "Being ready now doesn't erase being absent then." "Who are you?" Sarah asked, though her tone suggested she knew exactly who Evelyn was. "I'm someone who's been present, who's seen the aftermath of your choices, who's helped Lily understand that she's lovable despite being left." Sarah's face flushed. "You've known her for a few months. I carried her for 9 months, gave birth to her, nursed her, and then disappeared," Evelyn interrupted. "Biology doesn't give you the right to cause harm without consequence." "Ms. Cross," the mediator said gently, "I appreciate your advocacy for the child, but you're not a party to this custody arrangement." "She's family," Lily said from her seat. All the adults turned to look at the 8-year-old who'd been quiet until now. "Ms. Cross's family." She promised not to leave. The mediator's expression softened. "Would you like to talk to me privately, Lily? Tell me how you're feeling about all of this?" Lily nodded and left with the child advocate. The adults sat in uncomfortable silence. "You moved on quickly," Sarah finally said to Daniel. "New girlfriend already playing mom to our daughter." "I didn't move on," Daniel replied. "I survived. I built a life for Lily that included stability and love and people who showed up consistently. Evelyn is part of that life now because she chose to be, not because she's replacing anyone." "Does she know you used to call me in the middle of the night crying?" Sarah's voice had turned bitter. "That you begged me to come back?" Evelyn's hand found Daniel's under the table. "I know he loved you. I know he was devastated when you left. I know he did everything he could to hold his family together while raising a traumatized toddler alone. That doesn't make him weak. It makes him human." The mediator cleared her throat. "Let's focus on the child, please. Ms. Richardson, what specific custody arrangement are you requesting?" "I'd like to start with supervised visits once a week, building to unsupervised visits, then overnight stays, and eventually alternating weekends and holidays." "That timeline?" Daniel asked his lawyer. "She's suggesting a year to full joint custody," the lawyer whispered back. A year. 12 months of gradually handing over pieces of his daughter's life to someone who'd proven she could disappear without warning. Lily returned with the advocate, who asked to speak to the adults privately. In a separate room, she delivered her assessment. Lily is conflicted. She wants a relationship with her mother, but she's scared of being hurt again. She's very attached to both her father and to Ms. Cross. She expressed concern that if she has to spend time with her mother, she'll have less time with them. "What's your recommendation?" the mediator asked. "Start very slowly. Supervised visits in a neutral location, maybe 2 hours once a week. Lily should have control over when visits end if she's uncomfortable. Maintain therapy throughout the process. If after 3 months things are going well, reassess toward longer visits." It was more conservative than Sarah wanted and less protective than Daniel hoped for. They all signed an interim agreement. Saturday afternoon visits at a family center with a social worker present, mandatory therapy for Lily and optional family therapy for all parties, reassessment in 3 months. Walking out of the courthouse, Daniel felt simultaneously relieved and terrified. They'd bought time, but eventually Sarah would push for more. Eventually, courts would likely grant some level of custody to a biological mother who'd gotten treatment and stabilized her life. "I've got you," Evelyn whispered as they walked to the car. "Whatever happens, I've got you both." That night, after Lily had asked 1,000 questions and finally fallen asleep, Daniel and Evelyn sat on the couch wrapped around each other. "Do you still love her?" Evelyn asked quietly. "Sarah?" Daniel had been waiting for this question. "I love the person I thought she was, the woman I married, who I built dreams with, but that person either never existed or got lost somewhere along the way. The Sarah I saw today is a stranger wearing a familiar face. Do you love me?" "More than I knew I could love anyone." Evelyn tilted her face up to kiss him, soft and sweet and full of promise. "Then we face whatever comes next together. Sarah's visits, custody negotiations, all of it. Together," Daniel agreed. The first visit was scheduled for the following Saturday. Daniel dressed Lily in her favorite purple dress and tried not to project his anxiety onto her. She was quiet in the car, clutching the stuffed elephant. "You don't have to hug her if you don't want to," Daniel reminded her. "You don't have to call her mom if that feels weird. You get to decide how much contact feels okay." "What if I like seeing her?" Lily asked in a small voice. "Will you be mad?" The question broke Daniel's heart. "Oh, sweetheart, no, never. Your mom is your mom. If you want a relationship with her, that's good and healthy, and I support it completely." "Even though she left?" "Even though people can make terrible mistakes and still deserve second chances. What matters is that you feel safe and loved." The family center was cheerful and bright, with play areas and books and staff trained in handling fraught reunification. Sarah waited in a small room, and when Lily entered, she started crying. "Hi, baby," she whispered. "You're so big, so beautiful." Lily stayed close to Daniel, studying her mother warily. The social worker gently suggested they sit and do an activity together. There were art supplies, board games, books. Sarah chose crayons and paper, and slowly, tentatively, mother and daughter began to draw together. Daniel watched through the observation window with Evelyn beside him, her hand gripping his tightly. "She looks happy," Evelyn observed. "She looks confused," Daniel corrected. "Happy and scared and hopeful and uncertain all at once." 2 hours later, Lily emerged looking drained. She'd drawn pictures with Sarah, played a game, answered questions about school and friends, and her favorite things. Sarah had cried multiple times. The social worker reported it went well overall, though Lily had maintained physical distance throughout. In the car, Lily was quiet for a long time. Then, "She seems nice." "She can be nice," Daniel agreed. "She wasn't a bad person, just a struggling one."
"Do I have to love her?" "You don't have to do anything except be honest about your feelings." More silence. Then, "I think I want to see her again, but I want Miss Cross to come too next time. Is that allowed?" Daniel glanced at Evelyn in the rearview mirror. She looked stunned and terrified and honored all at once. "We'll ask," he promised. That night, after Lily was in bed, Evelyn paced the living room. "I can't go to her visits with Sarah. That's inserting myself into their relationship." "She asked for you. She's 8 and scared and looking for safety. That doesn't mean it's appropriate for me to—" "Evelyn," Daniel caught her hand, stopping her pacing. "You're her family. She wants you there. That matters. What if Sarah objects? Then we explain that Lily's comfort takes priority over everyone else's discomfort." Evelyn sank onto the couch, head in her hands. 6 months ago, I was alone in my condo working 70-hour weeks and convinced that was all I'd ever have. Now I'm advocating to attend supervised visits for my boyfriend's daughter with his ex-wife. How did my life become this complicated? Is it good complicated or bad complicated? She looked up at him, eyes shining. It's terrifying complicated. It's wonderful complicated. It's the best thing that's ever happened to me, and I'm constantly afraid I'll wake up and it'll be gone. Daniel pulled her into his arms. It's not going anywhere. We're not going anywhere. This is real, Evelyn. Messy and complicated and real.
They sat together in the darkness, holding each other while the future stretched uncertain before them. Sarah's visits would continue. Custody arrangements would evolve. Legal battles might intensify. But for now, in this moment, they had each other. And they had Lily sleeping safely in her room, and they had the courage to face whatever came next. Together. The social worker's name was Patricia, and she had the weary compassion of someone who'd witnessed countless family reunifications. Some successful, most complicated, a few disastrous. When Daniel proposed that Evelyn attend the second visit, Patricia's eyebrows rose slightly, but her expression remained neutral. "That's unusual," she said carefully. "Typically, we limit participants to biological parents and the child during the reintegration phase." "Lily asked for her specifically," Daniel explained. "Ms. Cross has been a consistent presence in her life for several months now. She feels safer with her there." Patricia made notes. "I'll need to speak with Ms. Richardson about this, and with Lily to confirm it's genuinely her preference and not parental influence." Sarah's reaction, relayed through her lawyer, was predictably resistant. She felt Evelyn's presence would undermine the mother-daughter bonding she was trying to rebuild. Her lawyer used words like inappropriate and overstepping boundaries, and suggested that Daniel was using his girlfriend to alienate Lily from her biological mother. "That's not what's happening," Daniel told his own lawyer in frustration. "Lily's asking for additional support during an emotionally complex situation. That should be respected." The compromise Patricia eventually brokered was that Evelyn could be present in the facility, but not in the visitation room itself, available if Lily needed her, but not actively participating. It felt like a loss and a victory simultaneously, which Daniel was learning was the nature of co-parenting with an ex-wife who'd been absent and was now fighting to return. The second Saturday visit arrived with December rain drumming against the windows. Lily wore jeans and her favorite sweater with dinosaurs on it, her choice of armor for facing complicated feelings. In the car, she asked the question that had clearly been weighing on her all week. "What if Mommy asks why Ms. Cross is there?" "Then you tell her the truth," Daniel said, "that Ms. Cross is important to you and makes you feel safe." "Will that make Mommy sad?" The empathy in his daughter's voice, her concern for the mother who'd abandoned her, was both beautiful and heartbreaking. Lily had every right to be angry, to withhold care, to protect herself. Instead, she worried about hurting Sarah's feelings. "Your mom's feelings are her responsibility to manage," Evelyn said gently from the back seat. "Your only job is to be honest about what you need." At the family center, Sarah's face tightened when she saw Evelyn in the waiting area, but she said nothing. Patricia ushered Lily into the visitation room while Daniel and Evelyn sat in uncomfortable plastic chairs with parenting magazines neither of them could focus on. "I feel like I'm causing problems," Evelyn said quietly after 20 minutes of silence. "Between you and Sarah. For Lily. You're not causing anything. You're existing in Lily's life, which you have every right to do." "Do I, though?" Evelyn's voice was small. "I'm not her parent. I have no legal standing. I'm just the girlfriend who—" "You're the person who held her when she cried, who read to her when she was scared, who promised not to disappear and has kept that promise every single day." Daniel took her hand. "Legal standing doesn't define family. Love does." 45 minutes into the visit, Patricia emerged looking concerned. "Daniel, could you come in? Lily's asking for you." His heart jumped. He followed Patricia into the room where Lily sat at the craft table, tears streaming down her face while Sarah hovered nearby looking helpless and guilty. "Hey, sweetheart." Daniel knelt beside his daughter. "What's wrong?" "Mommy asked if I remembered when she used to sing to me," Lily said through tears. "And I don't remember. I don't remember anything from when I was little, and that made her cry, and now I feel bad." Sarah's own tears were falling freely. "I'm sorry, baby. I didn't mean to upset you. I miss those times. I miss you." "But I don't miss you," Lily said with devastating honesty, "because I don't remember you being there. I remember Daddy reading stories and making pancakes and taking me to school. I don't remember you at all." The words landed like physical blows. Sarah actually flinched, one hand going to her mouth to stifle a sob. Patricia intervened smoothly, suggesting they take a break. Daniel carried Lily out to the waiting area where Evelyn immediately opened her arms. Lily burrowed into Evelyn's embrace. "I made Mommy cry.
I didn't mean to, but I told the truth and she cried. Truth can hurt sometimes, Evelyn said softly, stroking Lily's hair. But it's still important to tell it. You didn't do anything wrong. Am I a bad daughter? No, baby, Daniel said firmly. You're honest and brave, and you're allowed to have feelings about what happened. Your mom left when you were 3. Of course you don't remember much. That's not your fault. Patricia pulled Daniel aside while Evelyn comforted Lily. This is going to be harder than Ms. Richardson anticipated. She's grieving the years she missed, but expecting an 8-year-old to share that grief is unrealistic. I'm recommending we continue weekly visits, but also mandating individual therapy for Sarah to process her expectations. What about Lily? She's handling this remarkably well considering. But yes, continuing her therapy is crucial. She's navigating complex emotions, wanting to know her mother while also protecting herself from potential hurt. The drive home was quiet. Lily sat in the back seat clutching her elephant, occasionally sniffling. When they pulled into the apartment parking lot, she asked if they could have hot chocolate and watch a movie. Anything normal, anything that felt safe. While Daniel made hot chocolate, extra marshmallows as Evelyn had once prescribed, Evelyn and Lily built a blanket fort in the living room with the dedication of architects constructing something permanent. By the time he returned with mugs and the popcorn Lily had requested, they'd created an elaborate structure involving every pillow in the apartment and most of the dining room chairs. This is Fort Invincible, Lily announced seriously. Nothing bad can get in here. They watched Moana for probably the 20th time, all 3 of them squeezed into the blanket fort that smelled like fabric softener and butter and safety. Halfway through, Lily fell asleep between them, her head on Evelyn's shoulder and her feet in Daniel's lap. She's exhausted, Daniel whispered. Emotional labor is real labor, Evelyn replied softly. She's working so hard to navigate everyone's feelings. Too hard. She's 8. She should be worried about homework and friendships, not managing her mother's guilt. Evelyn's hand found his over Lily's sleeping form. We can't protect her from all of it, but we can make sure she has a safe place to land afterward. Fort Invincible, Daniel said with a slight smile. Fort Invincible, Evelyn agreed. The following week brought a new complication. Cross Media landed a major client that required immediate strategy overhaul and all-hands dedication. Daniel found himself working late several nights, coordinating with teams across time zones, building presentations that Evelyn would deliver to executives who could make or break the company's growth trajectory. The professional boundary they'd established, Marcus as official supervisor, Evelyn recused from employment decisions, got tested when the client specifically requested Daniel present, alongside Evelyn at their headquarters in San Francisco. This is a problem, Katie from HR said in her tactful way that meant big problem. You and Ms. Cross traveling together, sharing presentations, functionally working as partners. It raises questions about whether we're actually maintaining appropriate professional distance. The client requested both of us, Daniel pointed out. Turning down that request could cost us the account. Which is exactly why this situation is complicated. Your relationship creates conflicts of interest we can't easily navigate. That night, Daniel and Evelyn sat at his kitchen table trying to solve an unsolvable problem. If he didn't go to San Francisco, the client might be offended, and the account could suffer. If he did go, HR had legitimate concerns about professional boundaries. If Evelyn recused herself entirely, the company lost her expertise on its most important new client. Maybe I should look for a job elsewhere, Daniel said finally. Remove the conflict entirely. Evelyn's head snapped up. What? We knew this would get complicated. If my being at Cross Media is creating problems for the company, you're one of our best strategists. The Brennan campaign exceeded projections by 40% because of your work. I'm not losing you because we fell in love. Then what do you suggest? Evelyn was quiet for a long moment, fingers drumming on the table in the pattern she used when working through complex problems. What if I stepped back? You're the CEO. You can't step back from your own company. Not entirely. But what if we brought in a COO? Someone to handle day-to-day operations, client relationships, personnel decisions. I'd remain CEO and focus on strategic vision, but there'd be another layer of management between us. Daniel stared at her. You've spent 15 years building this company with complete control. You're suggesting giving up that control for us, Evelyn finished,
For you and Lily and the family we're building, cross-media is important, but it's not everything anymore. You are. The words hung in the air between them, weighted with significance. Evelyn Cross, the Ice Queen who'd built an empire on ruthless standards and complete control, was willing to restructure her entire company to protect their relationship. "Are you sure?" Daniel asked quietly. "No," she admitted. "I'm terrified. Bringing in a COO means trusting someone else with decisions, relinquishing power, accepting that I can't control every outcome. But I'm more terrified of losing you, of letting work destroy something good because I'm too rigid to adapt." Daniel came around the table and pulled her into his arms. "You're not rigid. You're learning flexibility. There's a difference. It feels like weakness. It's actually courage." They held each other in the kitchen while night deepened outside and Lily slept safely in her room. Somewhere in the distance, sirens wailed. Closer, the refrigerator hummed its mechanical lullaby. Inside this small apartment, two people who'd collided in anger were choosing each other again and again, making sacrifices and adjustments and learning that love required more than feeling. It required action. The board meeting where Evelyn proposed hiring a COO was contentious. Several board members questioned the timing, the necessity, the optics of the CEO stepping back from operational control. One particularly vocal member asked directly if this was about Evelyn's personal relationship, and the room went silent, waiting for her response. "Yes," Evelyn said clearly. "Partially. I'm in a relationship with an employee, and while we've maintained professional boundaries, the reality is that my position creates inherent conflicts of interest. Bringing in a COO removes those conflicts while also positioning the company for growth beyond what I can manage alone." The honesty was startling. Daniel, watching via video feed from the conference room where he waited, saw board members exchange glances. "Walk us through your vision," the board chair said. Evelyn's presentation was flawless. She outlined how cross-media had grown beyond single-person leadership, how a COO would free her to focus on strategic partnerships and innovation, how the structure would create clear reporting lines and professional development paths. She had candidates already vetted, financial projections showing improved efficiency, testimonials from other companies that had made similar transitions successfully. By the end, even the skeptical board member was nodding. They voted to approve the COO position with the understanding that Evelyn would remain actively involved in company direction but remove herself from personnel and operational decisions. When Evelyn returned to the conference room where Daniel waited, she looked drained and exhilarated simultaneously. "They approved it," she said. "I watched. You were brilliant. I just restructured my entire company because I'm in love with you. That's either brilliant or insane." "Maybe both," Daniel suggested. He crossed to her, hands gentle on her face. "Thank you for choosing us. Thank you for being worth choosing." They kissed in the empty conference room, and for once Daniel didn't worry about glass walls or watching eyes or professional consequences. They were building something real, and sometimes that required grand gestures and structural changes and the willingness to transform everything you'd carefully constructed. The COO they hired was a woman named Jennifer Park, 52, with 30 years of experience in digital media and a reputation for collaborative leadership that balanced Evelyn's intensity perfectly. Her first week, she met individually with every employee, including Daniel. "I understand you and Evelyn are in a relationship," Jennifer said with characteristic directness. Daniel tensed. "Yes, we've been careful about maintaining professional boundaries. I'm not here to judge personal relationships. I'm here to ensure they don't create unfair advantages or workplace toxicity." Jennifer's expression was kind but firm. "You're talented, Daniel. Your work speaks for itself. But I need you to understand that going forward, your advancement is based solely on merit. Evelyn won't be involved in those decisions. I will be." "I understand." "Good. Now tell me about the Morrison account. I've reviewed your strategy and I have some thoughts." Working with Jennifer was different from working with Evelyn. Where Evelyn pushed and challenged and demanded excellence through intensity, Jennifer coached and questioned and expected excellence through development. Daniel found himself growing in new ways, taking on projects that stretched his capabilities, receiving feedback that was honest without being harsh. At home, things were both settling and evolving. Lily's Saturday visits with Sarah continued with mixed results. Some weeks went well. They'd do crafts, talk about school, build tentative connection. Other weeks, Lily would shut down, or Sarah would overshare about her struggles, or the weight of missed years would crush their fragile progress. Evelyn's presence, even peripherally, seemed to help. Knowing she was in the waiting area gave Lily confidence to try. To be honest, to trust that even if the visit went badly, she had safe people to return to. In January, 3 months after the first visit, Patricia recommended expanding to longer sessions and eventually unsupervised time. Sarah had been consistent, had continued therapy, had proven she could respect boundaries even when disappointed. The court hearing to formalize a custody agreement was scheduled for early February. What if they give her joint custody? Lily asked one night during their bedtime routine. The question had been coming more frequently as the hearing approached. Then we'd work out a schedule where you spend time with both of us, Daniel explained gently. It might be every other weekend with your mom, or certain weekdays, But I don't want to leave you and Ms. Cross. Tears filled Lily's eyes. This is my home. You're my family. We'll always be your family, no matter where you sleep on any given night. Family isn't about location. It's about love. What if Mommy makes me choose? The fear in her voice broke Daniel's heart. No one is making you choose, baby. You're allowed to love your mom and love us. Those things aren't mutually exclusive. After Lily finally fell asleep, Daniel found Evelyn in the living room staring at legal documents spread across the coffee table. She'd been studying custody agreements and family law for weeks, determined to understand every possible outcome. What are you thinking? He asked. I'm thinking that I have no legal rights to a child I love like she's mine, Evelyn said quietly. If Sarah gets significant custody, I have no say in where Lily goes or when I see her. I'm just the girlfriend. You're more than that. Not legally, not in ways that matter when courts make decisions. Evelyn looked up at him, and her eyes were haunted. What if Sarah gets custody and decides she doesn't want me around Lily? What if she views me as competition and cuts off contact? She can't prevent you from seeing Lily during my custody time. No, but she can make it complicated. She can schedule activities during your time that conflict with our plans. She can tell Lily that spending time with me means less time with her. Evelyn's voice broke. She can do what every adult in my life did and make me dispensable. Daniel pulled her into his arms, feeling her shake against him. You're not dispensable. You're essential, to me and to Lily. Then marry me. The words came out muffled against his shoulder, but Daniel heard them clearly. He pulled back to look at her face, certain he'd misunderstood. What? Evelyn's expression was fierce and terrified. Marry me. Make me legally part of this family. Give me standing to fight for Lily if I need to. Stop me from being just the girlfriend who can be erased when it's convenient. Evelyn, I know it's fast. I know we haven't even lived together officially for very long. I know there are 1,000 rational reasons to wait, but I also know that I love you and I love Lily, and I'm tired of feeling like I could lose both of you because I don't have legal protection. Daniel cupped her face in his hands, seeing the vulnerability beneath her fierce proposal. This wasn't about romance or grand gestures. This was about a woman who'd been abandoned over and over, learning to fight for permanence in the only way she knew how. I love you, he said clearly. I want to marry you. I want to build a life with you. But not because you're afraid of being erased, because you're choosing us. I am choosing you every day I choose you. Then let me ask properly. When I'm ready, and you're ready, and it's about love, not fear. Evelyn's eyes filled with tears. What if I'm never not afraid? Then we do it afraid, but we do it when the timing is right, not when panic is driving decisions. She nodded against his hands, tears spilling over. I'm sorry. I'm not good at this, at trusting that good things can last. You're learning. We both are. They held each other on the couch, surrounded by legal documents and uncertainty. Two people learning to build something permanent in a world that had taught them both that permanence was an illusion. Outside, January rain continued its relentless Seattle rhythm. Inside, they chose each other again. The custody hearing arrived with gray morning light and anxiety that settled in Daniel's chest like concrete.
He wore his best suit. Lily wore a dress Evelyn had helped her pick out, purple with small flowers, something that made her feel brave. Evelyn wore armor, a black suit that announced she was here to fight, not to waver. The courtroom was smaller than Daniel expected, less dramatic than television suggested. The judge was a woman in her 60s with reading glasses and an expression that suggested she'd seen every variation of family drama humanity could produce. Sarah sat across the aisle with her lawyer, looking nervous but determined. She'd done everything asked of her: therapy, consistent visits, stable employment, appropriate housing. On paper, she was a mother ready to parent. In reality, she was a stranger trying to reclaim a relationship she'd willingly abandoned.
The child advocate spoke first, presenting Lily's perspective with diplomatic care. Lily wanted a relationship with her mother, but valued consistency and stability above all else. She was anxious about spending extended time away from her father and Ms. Cross. She needed gradual transitions and ongoing therapy support. Sarah's lawyer presented evidence of rehabilitation, medical records, therapy notes, character witnesses. He painted a picture of a woman who'd struggled with mental illness, sought treatment, and was now ready to be the mother she should have been all along. Daniel's lawyer countered with documentation of abandonment, the 18 months of silence, Lily's ongoing anxiety and need for stability. He emphasized that while reunification was generally positive, it needed to happen at a pace that prioritized the child's emotional well-being over the mother's timeline. The judge asked Sarah direct questions.
Why did you leave? Why didn't you seek help at the time? Why no contact for 18 months? Sarah answered honestly. She'd been drowning, terrified, convinced Lily would be better off without her. The answers were truthful and insufficient simultaneously. Then the judge turned to Daniel. Mr. Brooks, you've been sole caregiver for 18 months. You've clearly created a stable home. But Ms. Richardson is Lily's biological mother and has demonstrated commitment to treatment and change. What custody arrangement do you believe serves your daughter's best interests? Daniel took a breath. He could fight for sole custody, emphasize Sarah's abandonment, argue that biology didn't trump consistency. Or he could do what he'd been teaching Lily to do: tell the truth even when it was complicated. I believe Lily needs time with her mother, but on a schedule that respects her need for stability. Maybe one weekend a month to start, building to more as their relationship strengthens.
Ongoing therapy for everyone, clear communication between households, and recognition that the adults in Lily's life, including my partner Evelyn, are all working toward the same goal: Lily's well-being. The judge made notes. Ms. Cross, you're not a party to this case, but the child advocate mentioned you're significant in Lily's life. Would you like to address the court? Evelyn stood, and Daniel saw her hands trembling slightly despite her composed expression. Your Honor, I'm not Lily's parent, and I don't claim rights I don't have, but I love that child. I've watched her navigate abandonment with remarkable resilience. I've held her through nightmares and anxiety attacks. I've promised her I won't disappear the way others have. She paused, choosing words carefully. Whatever custody arrangement you decide, I ask that it includes consideration for Lily's need for consistency. She's learning to trust again. That trust is fragile. Rapid changes could damage it. The judge studied Evelyn for a long moment. You care deeply about this child. Yes, Your Honor. And you're committed to supporting whatever arrangement this court orders? Absolutely. After both lawyers made closing arguments, the judge announced she'd issue a ruling within 2 weeks. They filed out of the courtroom in tense silence. In the hallway, Sarah approached Daniel and Evelyn. Can we talk? She asked quietly. Just for a minute? They moved to a quiet corner while Lily waited with Daniel's lawyer. Sarah looked exhausted. Her earlier determination crumbled into uncertainty. I know you both think I'm selfish, she started. Coming back after all this time, disrupting Lily's stability. We think you're complicated, Evelyn corrected. Not selfish, complicated. Sarah's eyes filled. I see how much she loves you, both of you, how you've built this family I should have been part of, and I'm jealous and grateful and guilty all at once. Oh, what do you want, Sarah? Daniel asked, not unkindly. I want to know my daughter, but I also want what's best for her, even if that means less time than I'd hoped. She looked at Evelyn. You're good for them. I can see that. Daniel's happier than I ever saw him, and Lily trusts you in ways she doesn't trust me yet. She could trust you.
Evelyn said. If you prove over time that you're consistent, that's what I'm trying to do. Sarah wiped her eyes. Whatever the judge decides, I want you to know. I'm not trying to erase you or push you out. I know Lily needs you. It wasn't forgiveness exactly. It wasn't friendship, but it was acknowledgement, and sometimes that was enough to build on. 2 weeks later, the ruling came via email. The judge ordered a graduated custody schedule, 1 weekend per month for 3 months, reassessed to 2 weekends per month if things went well, building toward alternating weeks over the course of a year. Mandatory therapy for all parties, required communication between households about Lily's needs and schedule, and a clause that specifically mentioned considering Lily's attachments to significant adults in her life beyond biological parents. It wasn't everything Daniel wanted. He'd hoped to maintain more custody time. It was more than Sarah had expected. She'd pushed for immediate alternating weeks. It was exactly what Lily needed, gradual change with built-in support. That night they celebrated with pizza and ice cream, not because the outcome was perfect, but because the uncertainty was over. Lily asked 100 questions about what weekends with her mom would look like. Evelyn answered with honesty and reassurance. Daniel tried not to think about how quiet the apartment would be during those monthly weekends without his daughter. After Lily was in bed, Evelyn found Daniel standing in his daughter's doorway, watching her sleep. "You okay?" she asked softly. "I'm losing time with her. Pieces of her childhood I won't get back." "You're not losing her, you're sharing her. There's a difference." "Is there?" Evelyn's arms came around him from behind, her cheek against his back. "She knows who her home is, who her safe people are. A few weekends a month won't change that." "What if it does?" "Then we adapt. We stay consistent. We prove that we're the ones who don't disappear." She paused. "We be the family Sarah wasn't." They stood together in the doorway watching Lily sleep, and Daniel thought about the question Evelyn had asked weeks ago. "Then marry me." She'd framed it as fear, as desperation for legal standing, but underneath was something simpler, the desire to choose permanence in a world that had taught her nothing lasted. "I've been thinking about what you said," Daniel said quietly. "About getting married." Evelyn went still against him. "And?" "And I think you were asking the wrong question. You asked me to marry you to make you legally part of this family." "But you're already part of this family, Evelyn. You have been, since the moment you showed up at this apartment with ice cream and dragon books. Since you held my daughter when she was scared and promised you wouldn't leave." "Then what's the right question?" Her voice was barely audible. Daniel turned in her arms to face her. "The right question is, will you build a life with me not because you're afraid of losing us, but because you've chosen us? Will you wake up every morning and decide that this complicated, messy, beautiful family is worth the risk? Will you marry me not for legal protection, but for love?" Tears streamed down Evelyn's face. "Yes. Yes to all of it. Even though I come with an ex-wife and custody arrangements and a daughter who will always be my first priority? Especially because of that. Because you're an incredible father, and you love fiercely, and you've taught me that family is something you build, not something you're born with." Daniel kissed her then, soft and deep and full of promise. When they pulled apart, both were crying and smiling and holding each other like lifelines. "I don't have a ring," he said. "I don't need one yet. I just need the promise." "You have it. You've always had it." They held each other in the hallway between Lily's room and their own, and Daniel thought about impossible things becoming possible, about ice queens melting and single fathers finding love and families forming in unexpected configurations, about choosing permanence even when the world taught you nothing lasted, about building Fort Invincible in real life, one promise at a time. They told Lily about the engagement on a Sunday morning in late February while making pancakes, a Brooks family tradition that had evolved to include Evelyn's terrible attempts at flipping and Lily's insistence on adding chocolate chips to everything. The kitchen smelled like butter and vanilla and the particular warmth that came from people choosing to be together. "So we have some news," Daniel started, exchanging a glance with Evelyn across the stove. Lily looked up from her careful arrangement of chocolate chips into a smiley face pattern. "Are we getting a dog?" Despite the gravity of the moment, both adults laughed. "Not yet," Evelyn said. "But maybe someday. This is different news.
I asked Ms. Cross to marry me, Daniel said, and she said yes, which means we're going to be a family officially, legally. Lily's face went through several expressions in rapid succession: surprise, confusion, then something that looked like cautious hope. So, Ms. Cross would be my stepmom. The word landed heavily. Stepmom implied replacement, competition, the complicated dynamics of blended families that Lily had seen on television and heard about from classmates with divorced parents. Evelyn knelt down to Lily's level, pancake batter forgotten. I would be your stepmom legally, yes, but what that means is up to you, sweetheart. I'm not trying to replace your mom or compete with her. I'm just someone who loves you very much and wants to be part of your life officially. Would I have to call you Mom? Only if you wanted to. You can keep calling me Ms. Cross or Evelyn, or come up with something completely different. Names don't matter as much as the relationship. Lily considered this with her characteristic seriousness. Can I think about what to call you? Take all the time you need. Okay? Then, with the emotional whiplash only children could manage, can we still make the pancakes now? They finished breakfast with Lily chattering about whether chocolate chips or blueberries were superior pancake additions, seemingly unbothered by the engagement announcement. But Daniel noticed she stayed close to Evelyn throughout the morning, occasionally reaching out to touch her hand or lean against her shoulder, testing permanence, making sure it was real. That afternoon was Lily's scheduled weekend with Sarah, her third monthly visit. The routine had become familiar, if not comfortable. Pack her overnight bag, drive to the family center for the supervised handoff, watch his daughter disappear into a relationship he couldn't fully control or protect. Sarah had rented a small apartment in a neighborhood zoned for good schools, as if planning for a future where she'd have Lily more frequently. She'd decorated a bedroom in purple, Lily's favorite color, with shelves for books and a desk for homework and careful attention to creating space that felt welcoming. The handoff went smoothly. Sarah looked healthier each week, more grounded, though she still watched Lily with that hungry intensity of someone trying to memorize every detail. Lily hugged Daniel goodbye, then surprised everyone by also hugging Evelyn tightly. I'll see you tomorrow, okay? Evelyn promised. Promise? Promise. Driving home without Lily felt wrong, even after several months of monthly weekends. The apartment echoed with her absence. Daniel found himself wandering into her room, straightening stuffed animals that didn't need straightening, touching books she'd left on her nightstand. She's fine, Evelyn said from the doorway. Sarah's proven she's consistent. Patricia said the last visit went really well. I know, logically I know that. But there's a part of my brain that remembers coming home 18 months ago to find Sarah and Lily both gone, and his voice caught. Evelyn crossed the room and wrapped her arms around him. Sarah's not taking her. She's having a visit. There's a difference. What if Lily likes it better there? What if Sarah can offer things I can't? Flexibility, a mom who can do school pickups, someone who doesn't have to worry about work deadlines. Daniel, stop spiraling. Lily knows where her home is. She knows who's been there consistently. I'm being irrational. You're being a parent who's been traumatized by abandonment. That's not irrational. That's human. They spent the evening quietly, dinner for two, a movie neither of them really watched, early to bed where they held each other and tried not to obsess about whether Lily was okay. Daniel's phone stayed on the nightstand, volume turned up in case Sarah or Patricia called with concerns. The call came at 11:30. Daniel grabbed the phone on the first ring, heart pounding. Mr. Brooks? It was Patricia's calm, professional voice. Lily's physically fine, but she's very upset and asking for you. Ms. Richardson thinks it might be best if you come get her. What happened? She had a nightmare, and when she woke up in an unfamiliar room, she got disoriented and scared. Sarah tried to comfort her, but Lily kept saying she wanted to go home. I'm at the apartment now, helping to calm her down, but I think she needs you. Daniel was already pulling on clothes. We'll be there in 20 minutes. Evelyn drove while Daniel sat in the passenger seat trying to process emotions. Relief that Lily was okay, anger that she'd been scared, guilt that he'd let her go knowing she wasn't ready for overnights yet, frustration with a system that prioritized reunification timelines over children's emotional readiness. Sarah's apartment building was modest but well-maintained, the kind of place young families lived before they could afford houses with yards. Patricia met them in the lobby looking professionally sympathetic. She's calmer now, but still insisting she wants to leave. Sarah's upset. She feels like she failed somehow. They found Lily in the purple bedroom, curled on the bed with her elephant, while Sarah sat in a chair nearby, looking devastated. When Lily saw Daniel and Evelyn, she burst into fresh tears and ran to them. "I want to go home. Please take me home." "Okay, baby, it's okay." Daniel scooped her up even though she was getting too big for this, feeling her shake against him. "Let's get your stuff." Sarah stood, wringing her hands. "I'm sorry. She seemed fine at bedtime. We read stories and talked about school, and she said she was excited to stay over. But then around 11, she started crying, and nothing I did helped." "It's not your fault," Evelyn said quietly. "Overnights are a big step. Maybe she needs more time." "I did everything right," Sarah said, voice breaking. "I decorated her room perfectly. I bought her favorite foods. I had activities planned for tomorrow. Why am I not enough?" Lily turned in Daniel's arms to look at her mother, and Daniel saw his daughter's face transform from scared child to someone older, someone who'd learned empathy through her own pain. "You're nice, Mommy," she said softly, "but nice isn't the same as home yet. I need more time to feel like your place is home too." The wisdom in those words, the grace of a child who'd been abandoned offering kindness to the person who'd abandoned her, made Daniel's throat tight. Sarah started crying in earnest, and Lily actually reached out from Daniel's arms to touch her mother's hand. "I'm not mad," Lily assured her. "I'm just not ready for sleepovers yet. Can we do more day visits first?" Sarah nodded through tears. "Whatever you need, baby. Whatever makes you feel safe." Patricia walked them out, making notes about adjusting the custody schedule. "I'll recommend we hold it day visits for another few months before attempting overnights again." Lily was very clear about her needs, which is actually healthy. In the car, Lily sat between Daniel and Evelyn in the back seat, holding both their hands. "I'm sorry I ruined the weekend," she said. "You didn't ruin anything," Daniel assured her. "You were honest about what you were ready for. That takes courage." Mommy seemed really sad. "Your mom is dealing with the consequences of her choices," Evelyn said gently. "That's hard for her, but it's not your responsibility to fix. Your only job is to be honest about your feelings." "Do you think she'll stop trying to see me now?" "No, sweetheart. I think she'll keep trying because she loves you, but the timing will go slower, at a pace that works for you." Lily nodded, processing this. "Then, when you and Daddy get married, will I have to do sleepovers at two houses?" Evelyn and Daniel exchanged glances. "What do you mean?" Daniel asked. "Some kids at school have divorced parents, and they switch houses every week. Will I have to do that?" "No, baby," Daniel said firmly. "Evelyn is moving in with us. We'll all live together in the same house." "This apartment?" "Actually," Evelyn said carefully, "we've been talking about finding a bigger place. Somewhere with a yard, maybe, and a room for you that you can decorate however you want. What do you think about that?" Lily's eyes widened. "A house? Like a real house with stairs and everything?" "Maybe, if we can find the right one. And I could have my room and you and Daddy would have your room and there'd be space for all my books?" "Exactly like that." Lily was quiet for a moment, then smiled, the first genuine smile since they'd picked her up. "That sounds nice. That sounds like a really good home." The conversation about houses led to actual house hunting, which led to the realization that combining their lives meant combining everything: finances, belongings, habits, futures. Evelyn's downtown condo was sleek and modern and completely unsuitable for an 8-year-old. Daniel's apartment was cramped and temporary. They needed something new, something theirs. They found it in March, a craftsman-style house in a neighborhood with good schools and sidewalks where kids rode bikes. 3 bedrooms, a small yard with space for a garden Evelyn claimed she wanted to try despite having never gardened before, and a front porch with a swing that Lily declared perfect for reading dragon books. The purchase process was complicated by their unmarried status, both their names going on the mortgage, lawyers ensuring everything was documented properly. But by April they had keys, and by May they were moved in, boxes still unpacked in corners, but the important things sorted. Lily's room painted purple with stars on the ceiling, the kitchen organized for family pancake mornings, and a living room big enough for blanket forts that wouldn't have to be disassembled every night. At work, Jennifer Park had fully taken over operational leadership, freeing Evelyn to focus on strategic vision and client relationships. The San Francisco account had gone so well, the client requested cross-media for 2 additional campaigns. Daniel's team had grown to include 3 new strategists he was mentoring, and Marcus joked that the betting pool had shifted from whether they'd last to when the wedding would be. "People are invested," Marcus reported over coffee. "Jenna from accounting has a whole spreadsheet tracking possible dates based on Lily's school schedule and optimal weather conditions." "That's slightly alarming," Daniel said. "That's Jenna. She applied her actuarial training to your love life. You should be honored." They set the date for late June, a small ceremony in their new backyard with close friends and family. Lily would be flower girl. Marcus would stand up with Daniel, and Jennifer had somehow become Evelyn's closest friend through their working relationship, so she'd stand with Evelyn. The hardest part was navigating Sarah's role. She was Lily's mother and would always be part of their lives through their daughter. Excluding her from the wedding felt cruel. Including her felt complicated. "We should invite her," Evelyn said one evening while they debated seating charts. "Not for Sarah's sake, but for Lily's. So Lily doesn't feel torn between the adults in her life." "Are you sure?" Daniel asked. "This is our day. You shouldn't have to manage complicated dynamics." "Every day with a blended family involves complicated dynamics," Evelyn pointed out. "We might as well establish from the beginning that we can all exist in the same space for Lily's benefit." They invited Sarah. She accepted with surprising grace, even offering to help with anything they needed. The gesture was small but significant. Acknowledgement that Evelyn and Daniel's marriage wasn't erasing her, just creating additional stability for their daughter. Lily had opinions about the wedding, strong opinions. The flowers should be purple because purple was the best color. There should be chocolate cake because vanilla was boring. Everyone should read dragon books during the ceremony because that would make it more interesting. They compromised on purple accents, chocolate and vanilla cake layers, and reading one page from Lily's favorite dragon book as part of the vows. Because this wedding wasn't just about Daniel and Evelyn choosing each other, it was about all 3 of them choosing to be a family. 2 weeks before the wedding, Cross Media held its annual company celebration, a chance to recognize achievements, announce new directions, and allegedly have fun, though in previous years it had felt more like a performance review with appetizers. This year, under Jennifer's leadership and with Evelyn slightly removed from day-to-day operations, the atmosphere was notably lighter. Evelyn was scheduled to give the keynote address, something about strategic vision and company growth. Daniel sat with his team, watching her take the stage in a navy dress that made her look both professional and breathtaking. She started with the expected content, revenue growth, successful campaigns, client retention. But then she paused, looking out at the assembled employees with an expression Daniel had learned to recognize as someone gathering courage. "I want to talk about vulnerability," Evelyn said, and the room went quiet. "For years, I ran this company believing that success required sacrificing everything else, that showing weakness was failure, that control and perfection were the only paths to achievement." People shifted in their seats, clearly wondering where this was going. "I was wrong," Evelyn continued. "The best thing I ever did for this company was admit I couldn't do it alone anymore. Bringing in Jennifer wasn't giving up control. It was recognizing that growth requires trust, and trust requires vulnerability." She paused, finding Daniel in the crowd. "The best thing I ever did for myself was admit I wanted more than work, that I wanted connection and family and a life beyond these walls. I spent 36 years convinced those things weren't for me, that I was too damaged, too difficult, too focused on achievement to deserve love." Daniel's throat tightened. This was not the speech they'd rehearsed. "But then I met someone who saw past the armor, who challenged me and frustrated me and somehow made me want to be better. Not better at work. I was already good at work. Better at being human, better at showing up, better at letting myself be seen." The entire company was staring at Daniel now. He felt his face flush. "In 2 weeks, I'm marrying Daniel Brooks," Evelyn said, and the room erupted in applause. "Some of you have known for months. Some of you have bet money on various aspects of our relationship, which I'm choosing to find endearing rather than invasive." Laughter rippled through the crowd. "What I want you to know is this: you can be excellent at your work and excellent at your life. You can chase achievement and chase connection. You can build something professional and something personal. They're not mutually exclusive. I'm living proof. She smiled, and it transformed her face from the Ice Queen into someone warm and real. So my challenge to you is this: be vulnerable. Ask for help. Invest in relationships beyond these walls. Build lives that matter in multiple dimensions. And know that this company supports that. We're implementing new family-friendly policies, flexible scheduling, extended parental leave, mental health resources, support for employees navigating complex family dynamics. More applause, this time enthusiastic rather than polite. Because companies are made of people, Evelyn finished, and people need more than salary and benefits. They need permission to be whole humans, to make mistakes and learn from them, to choose love even when it's complicated, to build families in whatever form works for them. She looked directly at Daniel. Thank you for teaching me that. Thank you for being patient while I learned. Thank you for choosing us even when I made it difficult. Daniel stood and started clapping. Marcus joined immediately. Then Jenna from accounting and Jennifer, and one by one, the entire company rose in a standing ovation that had nothing to do with professional achievement and everything to do with witnessing someone's transformation. After the ceremony ended and people flooded toward the appetizer tables, Evelyn found Daniel in the crowd. That was not the strategic vision speech we discussed, he said. I know. I got up there and realized I was tired of hiding, tired of pretending the personal and professional don't intersect. She took his hand. Was it too much? It was perfect. You were perfect. I'm not perfect. I'm learning. There's a difference. Then you're perfectly learning, Daniel amended, pulling her close despite the watching crowd. And I love you for it. They kissed in the middle of the company celebration, and this time there was no scandal, no gossip pool, no consequences. Just warmth and applause, and Marcus shouting something about Jenna winning the betting pool after all. The 2 weeks before the wedding passed in a blur of final preparations and regular life continuing around the big event. Lily had her last day of third grade and came home with a folder full of artwork and a report card showing excellent progress. Sarah's visits had settled into a comfortable rhythm, weekly Saturday afternoons that sometimes went well and sometimes ended early, but always with communication and respect for Lily's needs. The night before the wedding, Daniel couldn't sleep. He stood in what would soon be officially his and Evelyn's bedroom, looking out at the backyard where tomorrow they'd make promises in front of everyone who mattered. Evelyn found him there, wearing one of his old t-shirts and looking younger than usual without makeup. Second thoughts? She asked. Not even a little. You? Terrified, but not doubting, she came to stand beside him. What are you thinking about? About a year ago, I was barely surviving, working a job where I felt invisible, raising Lily alone, convinced that romance and partnership were things that happened to other people. And then you kissed me in that glass office, and everything exploded. Sorry about that, Evelyn said wryly. Don't be. Best explosion of my life. He turned to face her. Do you remember what you said? That first time we really talked in the conference room after the kiss? I said a lot of things, most of them defensive and terrified. You said you didn't know how to do connection, that everyone you'd let close had left. I remember. Her voice was soft. You learned, Daniel said. You showed up for Lily when she was sick. You fought for us when HR raised concerns. You restructured your entire company to make room for this relationship. You promised not to disappear, and you've kept that promise every single day. Tears slipped down Evelyn's cheeks. You taught me how. You and Lily both. You showed me that family isn't something you're born with. It's something you build through choice and consistency. So tomorrow, when we make promises in front of everyone, I need you to know something. What? You've already kept the most important promise. You stayed. You chose us. You let yourself be loved. Everything else is just making it official. Evelyn kissed him then, soft and salt-tinged from tears and full of all the emotion she'd spent 36 years learning to express. When they pulled apart, she whispered, I'm so glad you were terrible at that presentation. I'm so glad you were angry enough to kiss me. Best mistake I ever made. Best impossible thing that became possible. The wedding day arrived with June sunshine and the kind of perfect Seattle weather that felt like a gift. Their backyard had been transformed with simple decorations: white chairs facing an arch wrapped in purple flowers, string lights waiting for evening, tables set for dinner under the oak tree that had sold them on the house. Lily spent the morning being pampered by Jennifer and Evelyn, emerging in a purple dress with flowers in her hair and an expression of utmost seriousness about her flower girl responsibilities. Sarah arrived early and actually helped with setup, hanging lights and arranging chairs without drama or tension. Marcus showed up with the rings and terrible jokes that made Daniel laugh despite his nerves. The ceremony itself was small, maybe 40 people, mostly colleagues who'd become friends, and the few family members both Daniel and Evelyn had maintained relationships with. But what it lacked in size, it made up for in significance. When Evelyn walked down the makeshift aisle in a simple cream dress, Daniel's breath caught. She looked nervous and radiant and entirely herself. No armor, no Ice Queen facade, just Evelyn choosing vulnerability in front of everyone. The officiant was a friend of Jennifer's who had a gift for making ceremonies feel personal rather than performative. She spoke about different paths to family, about choosing love when it would be easier to choose safety, about the courage required to build something new from broken pieces. Then came the vows. Daniel went first, his voice steady despite emotion threatening to crack it. "Evelyn, a year ago, you were the impossible boss who made my life difficult. Now you're the impossible partner who makes my life possible. You've taught me that fierce and tender aren't opposites, that demanding excellence and offering grace can coexist, that family is built through showing up day after day, even when it's hard." He paused, looking at Lily standing nearby with the rings. "You've loved my daughter like she's yours. You've fought for her and protected her and given her permission to trust again. That's the greatest gift you could have given me." Evelyn's tears were falling freely now. "I promise to challenge you when you're being too controlled, to remind you that vulnerability is strength, to build blanket forts and make terrible pancakes and choose you every single day. I promise that family will always come first. Not work, not achievement, not perfection. Family. Us. This." Evelyn's turn. She took a breath, steadying herself. "Daniel, I spent most of my life convinced I was too broken for love, too damaged by abandonment to risk connection, too focused on achievement to want anything else. You proved me wrong about all of it." Her voice shook, but she continued. "You saw past my defenses. You were patient when I was difficult. You taught me that love isn't about being perfect. It's about showing up imperfectly and trying anyway." She turned slightly to include Lily in her gaze. "You both taught me what family means, not biology, not obligation, but choice, consistency, the courage to stay even when it's hard." Back to Daniel. "I promise to keep learning vulnerability, to trust that you won't leave even when I'm scared, to build a life that balances achievement and connection, to love you and Lily with everything I have, to be the person who stays." The officiant smiled. "Daniel and Evelyn have asked Lily to participate in their vows." "Lily?" Lily stepped forward, holding a small book, the dragon book Evelyn had given her months ago. She opened to a page they'd marked together. The dragon realized that breathing fire wasn't about destroying things, Lily read carefully, but about lighting the way for others in the darkness. And sometimes the bravest thing a dragon could do was let someone see their soft belly, their vulnerable places, and trust they wouldn't strike. She closed the book and looked at both adults. "Ms. Cross showed me her vulnerable places, and I didn't strike. Daddy showed her his vulnerable places, and she didn't strike. And now we're all brave dragons together." There wasn't a dry eye in the backyard. The rings were exchanged, simple bands that matched, a conscious choice to present as equals rather than one person belonging to the other. The kiss was witnessed and celebrated with cheers and applause. And just like that, Daniel and Evelyn Brooks were married, with Lily Brooks standing between them, completing the family they'd built from impossible circumstances. The reception was more party than formality. Dinner under the oak tree as the sun set, dancing in the grass with string lights overhead, Lily showing anyone who would listen how to do proper dragon voices. Sarah standing slightly apart but present, watching her daughter thrive in a family that included her but didn't center her. Late in the evening, after Lily had fallen asleep on a blanket under the oak tree and most guests had departed, Sarah approached Daniel and Evelyn. "Thank you for inviting me," she said quietly, "and for everything you've done for Lily." "She's an incredible kid," Evelyn replied. "You made an incredible kid, even if the timing of parenting didn't work out initially." Sarah's eyes filled. "Can I be honest about something? Please. I'm jealous. Watching Lily with you both, seeing how much she trusts you, how happy she is. I'm jealous of what you've built, but I'm also grateful. Because my daughter is loved and safe and thriving, and that matters more than my ego." Daniel didn't know what to say. This was the most honest Sarah had been since returning. "I'm not trying to replace you," Sarah continued. "I know I missed my chance to be the primary parent, but I'd like to keep being part of her life, to prove over time that I can be consistent." "We want that too," Daniel said. "For Lily's sake. She deserves to have all the adults in her life working together." Sarah nodded. "Then that's what we'll do. Together." She left shortly after, and Daniel and Evelyn stood watching their sleeping daughter under the stars. "Did you ever imagine this?" Evelyn asked. "A year ago, when everything was impossible?" "Not even close. You?" "I couldn't have imagined any of it. The happiness, the fear, the family, all of it was outside anything I thought possible for myself." Daniel pulled her close. "And now? Now it's all I want. This house, this kid, this complicated, beautiful life we're building. You." They swayed slightly to music that was no longer playing, holding each other in their backyard while their daughter slept, and their future stretched out before them, full of possibility. Marcus emerged from the house carrying the last of the dishes. "You two are disgustingly happy, you know that?" "We know," Daniel said, grinning. "Jenna won the betting pool. She predicted June wedding, backyard ceremony, Lily as flower girl, and that you'd both cry during vows. She's insufferable about it." "Tell her she earned it," Evelyn said. After Marcus left, they carried Lily inside and tucked her into her bed in her purple room with stars on the ceiling. She stirred slightly, mumbling something about dragons, then settled back into sleep, clutching her elephant. "She's ours," Evelyn whispered. "Officially, legally ours." "She was always ours," Daniel corrected. "The legal part just makes it official." They stood in the doorway watching her sleep, and Daniel thought about all the impossible things that had led to this moment. The angry kiss in the glass office, the ice cream and dragon books, the custody battles and HR complications, the slow, terrifying process of learning to trust. All of it necessary, all of it worth it, all of it leading here. In their own room later, exhausted and happy, Evelyn asked one more question. "Do you think we're going to make it? Long term, I mean, despite all the complications?" Daniel pulled her close, her head on his chest, his hand in her hair. "I think we already are making it. Every day we choose each other, we're making it. Every time we navigate something hard and come out stronger, we're making it. We're not waiting for someday when everything is perfect. We're living it right now." Even with Sarah's visits and custody arrangements and work stress and all the normal complicated parts of life? Especially with all of that. Because that's real life, Evelyn. Not some fantasy where everything is easy. Real life with real complications and real choice to stay anyway. She was quiet for a moment, then, "I love you. I don't think I say it enough." "You show it constantly. That counts more than saying it. Still, I love you, Daniel Brooks. I love our daughter. I love this weird, wonderful family we've built. I love that we turned something impossible into something real." "I love you too," Daniel said. "And tomorrow, we get to wake up and do it all again. Tomorrow and every day after." Exactly. They fell asleep wrapped around each other, husband and wife now, partners in building a life neither had thought possible a year ago. In the room down the hall, Lily slept safely with her elephant and her dragon books, and the security of knowing she was loved by multiple adults who'd chosen to show up for her consistently. The house settled into night sounds, the creak of new wood adjusting, the hum of the refrigerator, the distant sound of Seattle traffic. Outside, string lights still glowed in the backyard where promises had been made and celebrated. Inside, a family slept, built not from biology or obligation, but from choice and courage and the remarkable resilience of hearts that had been broken and learned to trust again. Some stories begin with certainty, with plans and timelines and logical progression. But the best stories, the real ones, begin with impossible moments that crack everything open. With angry kisses in glass offices and ice queens learning to melt, and single fathers discovering they have more room in their hearts than they knew. This story began with a mistake, a collision of two people who should never have worked, in circumstances that seemed designed to fail. It began with anger and frustration and walls built so high they seemed impenetrable. But it ended with family, with promises kept and trust rebuilt, and love chosen daily despite its complications. It ended with a house full of dragon books and purple walls and pancakes made wrong but eaten with joy. It ended with three people who'd found each other through brokenness and built something whole. It ended with Daniel Brooks and Evelyn Brooks and Lily Brooks sleeping safely under one roof, proof that the most beautiful lives are often born from the most difficult beginnings, that vulnerability is strength, that family is choice, that ice queens can melt, that single fathers can find love, that abandoned children can learn to trust again, that sometimes the best thing that ever happens to you starts with a kiss you never saw coming and a person you thought was impossible becoming the most essential part of your world. And in the morning, they would wake up and do it all again, navigating custody arrangements and work deadlines and family dinners and all the beautiful, complicated, messy reality of choosing love every single day. Because that's what family does. They show up, they stay, they build Fort Invincible in real life and defend it together. And they live happily, not in some perfect fairy tale, but in the real, hard-won happiness of people who've chosen each other through impossible circumstances and emerged on the other side transformed. The end of the beginning, the start of everything that mattered. Home.